Good morning, everyone. It is 9:33 this morning. Chief McDonald, Executive Director, Diego Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General, Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney, Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, January 13, 2026. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Sanchez, Gordon, Scobin, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending the meeting today. All public comment will be heard during item 2 on the agenda. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can. You can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic and your public comment period will be concluded. Message to those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations, and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease the disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal of the meeting. With that, we will move to item 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald. Chief McDonald, before we proceed, I would just like to say a couple of things. I want to welcome everyone, and I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year for 2026. We have had a hell of a year in 2025. We started off with the fires, the devastating and tremendously pain-causing fires. We went on to the raids in June, causing great hardship in our city. And these were not people who were the worst of the worst, devastated our immigrant community throughout the city. We also have troubling officer-involved shootings at high numbers. We enter 2026 with that compounded by other issues that we'll be facing that will also be traumatic and challenging. I want to thank our board here, the members of the commission, for their hard work, their dedication, minimum hours of 20 to 30 hours, volunteer hours per week to be able to do this kind of work for the city. I want to thank them for their service. Chief, you may proceed.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, President Sanchez Gordon, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Executive Director Sibley. Before we begin, I'd also like to wish everyone a happy new year, and as you cited, a rough one we are leaving behind and moving forward optimistically for the new year. Today's report covers the 4-week period since the last meeting. I'll highlight key events from the past 4 weeks, share our most recent crime trends, and provide an update on our current staffing levels. During the last 4-week period of the year, the department experienced 3 officer-involved shootings. This brings the total number of officer-involved shootings for calendar year 2025 to 47, compared to 29 during 2024. For 2026, the department has had no officer-involved shootings, and this is consistent with the same time period last year. On December 18, 2025, at approximately 15:45 hours, uniformed officers from Hollywood Patrol Division responded to a radio call regarding a male experiencing a mental health crisis at 1417 North Bronson Ave. The comments of the call indicated the person reporting stated he was armed with a knife, threatening to kill himself, speaking to ghosts, and had expressed that he would kill anyone who approached his front door. Upon arrival, officers were supported by additional responding units. The officers entered the apartment complex and approached the person reporting's apartment door. As they neared the door, the officers announced their presence and heard the suspect yelling from inside the apartment. The officers repositioned themselves further away from the apartment door and attempted to communicate with the subject again. Shortly thereafter, the subject suddenly exited the apartment armed with a large kitchen knife and ran toward the officers while yelling. As the subject charged at the officers, an officer-involved shooting and a discharge of one 40-millimeter less lethal round occurred near simultaneously. Officers rendered medical aid to the subject until Los Angeles Fire Department personnel arrived. The subject was transported by rescue ambulance to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced deceased. No officers or community members were injured as a result of the incident. A kitchen knife was recovered at the scene and booked as evidence. Force Investigation Division responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. On December 19, 2025, about 3:30 in the morning, Central Patrol Division uniformed officers conducted a traffic stop for a vehicle code violation. The officers approached the vehicle and contacted the driver and front passenger. The officers observed a pistol grip between the passenger's legs. The passenger, later identified as Angel Elijah Cruz, was ordered by the officers not to move. In the process of giving the occupants directions, Communication Divisions advised the officers that the vehicle was reported stolen. The officers requested a backup and a supervisor. Additional officers and a supervisor arrived at scene while Cruz was given several commands not to reach for the handgun. Cruz disregarded the officer's command and raised the pistol grip of an object resembling a handgun, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Cruz was removed from the vehicle and taken into custody without further incident. It was later discovered that the handgun was a replica handgun torchlighter with a pistol grip. Cruz sustained gunshot wounds and was transported to Los Angeles County USC Medical Center by rescue ambulance, where he was treated for his injuries. Cruz was absentee booked for 417.4 PC, or drawing and exhibiting an imitation firearm. The driver was subsequently taken into custody without incident. The replica handgun torchlighter was recovered at scene and booked as evidence. No officers or community members were injured as a result of the incident, and again, Force Investigation Division personnel are handling the incident. On December 31st, approximately 9:40 in the evening, Harbor Patrol Division uniformed police officers responded to a radio call for an unknown trouble, possible restraining order violation at 543 West 37th Street. The residence was identified as a special location with Communications Division. Upon arrival, officers met with the victim, who advised officers that the suspect, later identified as Lawrence Gonzalez, was inside her apartment. The officers contacted Gonzalez inside the apartment, and he refused to comply with officers' command to turn around and place his hands behind his back. The officers approached Gonzalez, who physically resisted their efforts to detain him. The physical resistance escalated into a violent confrontation where Gonzalez attempted to disarm the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Both officers received bruises, cuts, and scrapes from the incident and were transported to local hospital for treatment of their injuries by Los Angeles Fire Department personnel. Additionally, the Los Angeles Fire Department responded and transported Gonzalez to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased. No community members were injured other than mentioned Force Investigation Division, along with representatives from the California Department of Justice, responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. As a result of recent international events, including the shooting in Minnesota, developments in Venezuela, and the ongoing conflict involving Iran, Los Angeles experienced multiple demonstrations throughout the city this past weekend. Throughout the day on Saturday, those events were largely peaceful and lawful. Later in the evening, after a full day of demonstration, a small group of individuals began banging on the windows of the federal building and trespassing onto federal property. Federal authorities requested LAPD assistance as they did not have sufficient resources on scene to address the situation. Our officers issued repeated verbal warnings in an effort to gain voluntary compliance. When those efforts were unsuccessful, a dispersal order was given. A portion of the crowd complied and left the area, while others remained. Those individuals were then moved south of the federal building, and the area was ultimately cleared. In total, 4 individuals were arrested for failure to disperse, and 2 were arrested for battery on a police officer. No less lethal munitions were deployed during the incident, and only minor injuries were sustained by our officers. On Sunday, a large demonstration was held near West Los Angeles Federal Building in support of the Stand in Solidarity, protesting actions by the Iranian government. The event was initially projected to draw approximately 300 people, but quickly grew to nearly 3,000 participants. Resources from West Los Angeles Division were monitoring the event, which was largely peaceful. During the demonstration, a U-Haul truck was observed traveling on Ohio Avenue toward Veteran Avenue and in the direction of the crowd. Officers stopped the vehicle and
Chief, excuse me, Chief.
Sure.
The gentleman in the back, speaking on the cell phone, gentleman in the back speaking on the cell phone, could you just walk out the door and conclude your call there, please? Thank you.
During the demonstration, a U-Haul truck was observed traveling on Ohio Avenue toward Veteran Avenue and in the direction of the crowd. Officers stopped the vehicle and directed the driver to make a U-turn as he was approaching a large concentration of demonstrators. The vehicle displayed large signs and images expressing views opposing those of the protest. As demonstrators noticed the vehicle and its messaging, several individuals became agitated, began tearing signs from the truck, and swarmed the vehicle. The driver was assaulted while inside the vehicle and, in an effort to escape further harm, slowly drove forward through the crowd. When the driver observed officers ahead, he stopped and sought assistance. Officers immediately formed a skirmish line between the vehicle and the crowd and detained the driver. The driver had sustained laceration to his hand prior to being detained, and during the continued agitation by some in the crowd who were swinging sticks and other objects, the driver also sustained an injury to his neck from a stick. There were no known injuries to anyone in the crowd as a result of the vehicle. Detectives from Major Crimes Division and the Federal Bureau of Investigation responded and conducted an extensive investigation. At this time, there is no indication of a terrorism nexus and no federal charges are being sought. The driver was booked for reckless driving, and Major Crimes Division will retain investigative responsibility and present the case to the city attorney for filing consideration. I'd also like to provide an update on the department's current hiring situation. When the city's budget was initially adopted, LAPD was authorized to hire 240 new officers. The mayor indicated that if the target was met by the end of December 2025, additional funding could be identified to support continued hiring through the remainder of the 2025-26 fiscal year. Our December Academy class was our largest to date recently, with 56 new recruits, allowing us to meet the 240 officer hiring target. However, despite meeting that goal, no additional funding has yet been identified to allow us to continue hiring beyond that point. With an annual attrition rate of approximately 550 to 600 officers, the department is currently losing more officers than we're able to replace, which means our overall staffing levels continue to decline. This is occurring at a time when the city is preparing to host several major international and national events, including Major City Chiefs Association Conference, the NBA All-Star Weekend, the Women's PGA Championship, and the FIFA World Cup, the Super Bowl in 2027, and the Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2028, all of which will place significant operational demands on the department. The department recently appeared before City Council, which authorized the hiring of an additional 40 recruits for the January class. However, no funding has been identified beyond that class. We're currently awaiting to see if additional funding has been identified to continue hiring for the remainder of the fiscal year. As we close out 2025, I want to provide some important context regarding how our crime data is reported and why year-to-year comparisons have been limited during the transition period. Through 2023 and prior years, LAPD crime statistics were compiled using the Summary Reporting System, or SRS. That system follows what is known as the hierarchy rule, meaning that in incidents involving multiple crimes against a victim, only the most serious offense was counted for statistical purposes. In 2024, our crime statistics reflected a blend of SRS and the National Incident-Based Reporting System. Or NIBRS, as we transition to the new national standard. NIBRS counts each type of offense once per incident, regardless of how many victims or how many crimes are associated with that event. Because these two systems count crimes differently, comparisons between years during the transition period did not provide a consistent or accurate picture. In 2025, LAPD fully adopted NIBRS. As a result, we could not produce traditional year-over-year comparisons between 24 and 25 because the counting rules were fundamentally different. Beginning in 2026, however, we'll once again be able to provide reliable year-to-year comparisons using a consistent NIBRS framework. There is one important exception. Homicides and shooting victims have always been tracked separately by the department through a hand count of each victim, allowing us to maintain consistent year-over-year comparisons regardless of reporting system changes. There's also been some confusion regarding differences between LAPD homicide numbers and those reported through NIBRS. Under the NIBRS reporting system, the definition of homicide includes vehicular manslaughter. However, for purposes of LAPD's year-end statistics, we're reporting these categories separately to provide a clear and more accurate picture of violent crime. When we refer to homicide, we're using that term exclusively to describe murders which are intentional criminal acts of violence. Vehicular manslaughter is reported separately and defined as a death resulting from a motor vehicle collision caused by another driver's gross negligence. This distinction allows the department, the police commission, and the public to better understand crime trends, ensure accurate comparisons over time, and avoid overstating levels of criminal violence by combining fundamentally different types of fatalities. With that context in mind, I want to share some of our key year-end crime outcomes for 2025. In 2025, the City of Los Angeles recorded 230 homicides, representing a 19% reduction from 2024. This marks the fewest total homicides since 1966, when there were 226. On a per capita basis, the homicide rate for 2025 was 5.9 per 100,000 residents, making it the lowest homicide rate since 1959, when the rate was 5.5 per 100,000. In addition, there were 97 vehicular manslaughter deaths recorded in 2025. Because of the transition to NIBRS, comparable year-over-year data is not available for that category. The number of shooting victims in 2025 was 899, the lowest number since 2007. This represents an 8.4% decrease from 2024, when 981 people were shot. Finally, across all person and property crimes, the city experienced 22,022 fewer crimes in 2025 than in 2024, reflecting a broad-based decline in crime citywide. Crime for the week ending January 10th, beginning of the new year. Now that the department has fully transitioned to a consistent NIBRS reporting framework, I want to provide an early snapshot of crime trends as we move into the new year. All of this analysis reflects offense counts through January 10th, with homicides and shooting victims tracked separately as previously discussed. Compared to this time last year, combined crime and property, combined person and property crime is down 37% citywide. Person crimes are down 17.5%, and property crimes are down more than 42%, indicating that the reductions we saw at the end of 2025 are continuing into the start of the new year. Violent crime trends are also moving in a positive direction. Citywide homicides are down 44% year-to-date compared to last year. Shooting victims are down 14% year-to-date. Aggravated assaults are down 13%. Robberies are also down 21%. Robberies involving a firearm have dropped 29%, while at the same time, firearm recovery by our officers is up 13%, showing our proactive enforcement and focused efforts to remove illegal guns from our community. Year-to-date, we've seen a 33% reduction in burglaries across the city. Anybody know where that's coming from? It's disruptive. Yeah, it's disruptive.
Excuse me. Excuse me. If you can't control your conversation while the chief is speaking, I'm going to ask you to step outside. Thank you. We know that. Thank you. You may proceed, chief.
Okay. Year-to-date, we've seen a 33% reduction in burglaries across the city. Residential burglaries are down 31.9%, and non-residential burglaries are down 34.5%. Motor vehicle theft is also down by 36.3% compared to 2025. Taken together, these early 2026 numbers show that the progress achieved in 2025 is continuing into the new year. While we remain focused on addressing localized spikes and emergency trends, the overall direction of crime across Los Angeles remains strongly downward. Our personnel strength, sworn personnel as of January 12th, is 8,711. Civilian personnel staffing is at 2,505, and we have 340 reserve officers. That concludes my report to the commission this morning.
Thank you,
Madam
Chief.
President.
Thank you, Chief, for your comprehensive report on the crime statistics. I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Garcia, if he has any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Chief, and Happy New Year all.
Thank you.
While the crime trend numbers are great, and I applaud the officers, the mental health specialists, and the intervention workers that all were involved in seeing us through those reductions and achieving those reductions, the number of officer-involved shootings is definitely concerning. And so, looking forward to working with you and the team, analyzing those incidents and figuring out what is it we can do as the board to further improve possibly training and or policy and the way officers deploy to certain incidents, and hopefully we can find a trend that we can then address and reduce those officer-involved shootings. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Excuse me, there's a question. We're not going to answer that question now. We're going to proceed with another question from the commissioner. Thank you. Commissioner Scobin.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. Happy to hear the continued decline in crime statistics. Hopefully it continues. And of course, the zero officer-involved shootings as well. A few comments. On the December recruit class of 56, happy to hear that number. Curious, does that number include recruits going to other departments or all?
Now, the 56 are people we've hired. We also, in each of our classes, also open it up to outside agencies as time allows or as space allows.
But that 56 is all coming
Is
out
our
of PD.
folks, right.
Fantastic. Separate note, on this weekend's protest, we were made aware and saw a video from this weekend's protest, which appeared to show police issuing a dispersal order to media. I'm curious what we're doing to remind the department of our policies and laws in place as it relates to that. So I'm curious if
Sure. Yeah, we don't issue dispersal orders to media. If we issue dispersal orders for an area to a crowd that's there, the media have the legal right to be in that area that's closed. They do so and knowing that there may be movements or actions that they need to be careful of. But we don't move the media out of an area. We move the crowd, and it's a crowd that is either volatile or potentially becoming violent.
to the extent that we're going to communicate, or I might recommend communicating, just reminding the department of our policies there through bulletin or whatnot, and if so, I'd like for the commission to get a copy, any copies of those communications.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right.
Okay, anything further, Commissioner? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We are now going to move into our public comment period. We will have 45 minutes for all items, and we will determine how many people are here.
First, we have Natalie.
First caller?
Natalie?
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Oh, Natalie, just.
Are you Natalie?
Use my big voice. Thank you. Keith was one of the most loving, kindest people on this earth, and everyone has attested to that fact. The only mistake that he made on New Year's Eve was thinking that he had the right to celebrate the way many Americans have from the beginning of time, the same way my grandfather did, and we learned that behavior from the people that brought us here. So, when are we gonna press charges on this murderer? When is he gonna be named? When is he gonna be arrested? The night that my cousin lost his life, no procedures were followed. No procedures were followed by an off-duty officer that found someone as a perceivable threat, because there was no perceivable threat. I believe the first story that he told, that he heard the shots, he went outside, saw my cousin, and shot him to disarm him. The police response after the fact called for Keith Porter, shelter in place or surrender. Which one is it? No medical aid, and my cousin was already laying down there dead in the rain. That officer was never told to surrender his service weapon. He was never given a sobriety check. We don't know what kind of drugs or alcohol he was on in his home alone, celebrating New Year's Eve. He was never taken down for proper interrogation. And this is systemic. When is there gonna be value placed on our lives? As an activist, as an organizer, I never thought I would be standing here for one of my family members, for someone that you guys have stolen from us. Justice for Keith Porter. Justice for Keith Porter. Justice for Franciola Armstrong. Justice for Naya and his other baby girl. Justice for Cordell and Anthony, who have lost their nephew. Justice for Wanda Turner. Justice for Jameen Villamil. Justice for all of us that are a part of our families that are now have been robbed from someone that was a light. He was a light in our family, and he was a light for everyone that came encounter with him. He had only lived in that complex for 11 months, yet all of his neighbors knew him. They all had good stories to tell about him. They all spoke about how kind he was, how helpful. Even they know that he always had a joke and a smile for them. They knew nothing about this man except for the fact that he had beat his wife, and that's why he was home alone on New Year's Eve, because he had already been charged for that. So as we're calling on commercials for these ICE agents, no experience necessary, who do you think are answering the call for these positions? The people who already have no value for our life and now feel like they have a green light to now play G.I. Joe, to play vigilante. There is no humanity in that. And we know these systems are created from slave catching in the first place. So when you guys sit here and you guys are talking about the number of police shootings and, crime is down, 48 people lost their lives to police killings. My cousin was the last one of the year on New Year's Eve, and that was just in 2025. We need this suspect named. We need this suspect arrested. We need this suspect charged, and we need him prosecuted. Had that been anyone else, procedures would have been followed, and this would have been involuntary manslaughter at the least. So I urge you guys to really, regardless of federal intervention, help us, help his family, help our community really get justice, because he was not the suspect. He was Keith Porter. He was waiting for his company to come. He was waiting for his girlfriend to return with food so that they could celebrate and have a great New Year Eve, to bring in the new year with joy. And instead, he was robbed of his life while this man goes home and sleeps comfortably. Where's the justice in that? Where's the humanity in that? I don't care. Mind your business, woman. Your cousin is not the murdered victim.
Excuse me, you may proceed.
Thank you. It's hard being up here. I don't think you guys even understand how heartbreaking it is that I've been doing this work in these streets for almost 20 years. Fighting for children, fighting for students, fighting for immigrant rights, fighting for fair practices. I'm a union steward. To have to come here today because my cousin was the one laying there dead for hours, when even if procedures had been followed after the police response, there could have been medical aid rendered to him. But instead, they kept calling for him to either surrender or shelter in place, which makes no sense. So I implore you guys here today to work with all of your might, use the power of your positions to help us as a family seek justice for my cousin, justice for Keith Porter.
Thank you for being here. Madam Secretary?
Next over Zoom, we have P. Miller.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
Yes, all.
Okay, 3 minutes.
As always, thank you, LAPD officers, for your outreach and engagement. Several months ago, there was a Zoom meeting for Encino stakeholders and commissioners, over 700 attendees at that Zoom meeting, people who want to work closely with the LAPD and want to see DA Hochman successfully prosecute criminals. Regarding animal cruelty, a number of years ago, the LAPD had a dedicated animal cruelty task force. Unfortunately, with political grandstanding and budget cuts in 2020, it became inactive or less active. So it is welcome news in September 2025, the Federal Animal Abuse Task Force has federal authorities and local law enforcement working together. Glad to see LAPD a part of that task force. Commissioners, even if you're not an animal lover, this is important. Why? If you listen to source matter experts, the correlation between domestic violence and animal abuse is extremely high, 80 to 90%. So glad to see this move forward. Regarding the numerous, mainly peaceful protests, sometimes riots over the past years, we've seen dozens of officers hurt, fireworks thrown at officers and horses on the mounted patrol, and rioters closing down freeways, significant property damage. If someone or some group or nonprofit are funding this dangerous behavior, they need to be held accountable. Follow the money. There are actually businesses that provide paid crowds to protest when needed. Commissioners, neighborhood watch members, and volunteers do not get paid to attend meetings or support law enforcement. So this makes the community wonder how many paid agitators at protests, at local synagogues and universities have there been? Those who have paid to incite violence, they should be prosecuted and pay for the damages. So please continue to investigate. We cannot rely on the media to get the facts on that story. Additionally, any protester or elected or appointed official involved with doxing or supporting apps to do harm to our law enforcement, whether local or federal, they need to be prosecuted as well. That is not what they were elected to do. Welcome, Commissioner Scobin, and great to see the LAPD Mounted Patrol and Chief in the Rose Parade. And thank you, Chief McDonnell, for your clarity on some issues on Sunday's news conference. The voters overwhelmingly passed Prop 36, but politicians continue to undermine its funding. Perhaps the commission could look towards educating politicians on this issue that is critical for the safety and well-being of citizens, the citizens you represent on this commission. Thank you for your time.
Madam Secretary?
Next, we have Steve Hill.
Hello? Everybody hear me? Commissioner, I'd like to thank you and introduce myself. My name is Steve Hill. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran and a retired correctional peace officer for the state of California. I'm here to speak on behalf of Keith Porter and our corrupt-ass system that we all know we have. I've been in it. You guys know how we lie, how we do people. All I'm asking you guys for is transparency preceded by accountability. This entire country is screwed up right now because people aren't held accountable. The January 6th people to try to overthrow the damn government, not held accountable. I worked in 2 different maximum security prisons. CCI, which is California Correctional Institution at Tehachapi, and CSP LAC, which is California State Prison, Los Angeles County. Our prisons in the 90s were full of black and brown people. Why are we the only ones held accountable? All I'm asking you for, and for the family and for our community, and to build public trust, is to be transparent and hold people accountable. Period. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Next, we have Star over Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chief, I want to say thank you so much for your detailed report. It's always appreciated. And thank you for all the information. And it was nice to see LAPD and to see you at the Rose Parade. And thank you for all the holiday community events that you participated in for the kids and for the communities. It was nice and it was good for community relations. You know, there's a commissioner that always asks, well, LAPD shootings are up. Well, I mean, let's have common sense. Before you ask that, if someone's charging at a police officer with a knife and they've given several commands, I mean, this is a matter of safety and a matter of life. It's unfortunate, but a knife is considered a weapon and they're in fear for their lives. So, you know, that shouldn't be a question that's asked every week. What should be addressed is why this is happening. You know, if someone needs mental health, if someone needs assistance, you know, that's the main, you know, thing here is just to help people that need assistance and need this. LAPD is thrown into situations where unfortunately they have no option but to save, you know, people involved and to save their own lives. So thank you for LAPD for going out there and making sure we're safe and making sure that our communities are safe. Thank you, Chief, for your support for LAPD, and hopefully this will be a better year. And God bless the LAPD. Thank you for all you do as a community member living in LA for over 50 years. An immigrant, a brown woman, we support our LAPD. So no, I'm not a racist bootlicker. I'm actually a brown woman that lives in the community that wants the relations and appreciates our law enforcement officers. Thank you.
Next, we have Laura Duffy.
What I just wanted to know is who is speaking here that isn't even present? You know, they didn't come up to the mic.
There's a Zoom call, and who said you could go up to the
Okay, anyway, this is what I want to say. There is a procedure. Can you be quiet?
Excuse me. Someone is at the podium speaking.
You're using my time up now.
Proceed, please.
There's a procedure regarding trespass. My understanding is that nobody can take a trespass out against you unless the allegations against you go before a legal judge. The legal judge decides whether or not makes any sense. Then he notifies the so-called trespassee, and the trespassee is notified by certified mail to answer these allegations and give their side of the story, at which time a trespass is either granted or not granted. Now, churches may not even trespass anybody. That is not legal and they can't do it. Therefore, if the Cathedral of Our Lady of Angels or the Beverly Hills Presbyterian Church or any other Presbyterian church is preventing me from entering and they do not have a trespass, and I know they don't, and they can't possibly get one because they're a church, I have the right to use a stun gun to enter because the police will not back me up. And they back up this illegal trespassing and preventing me from entering of places and threaten me with arrest, and they have no right to do this. And I will, since you won't help me, I will get in anywhere that's preventing me to get in because they have no legal trespass and I cannot be arrested. They're threatening me with arrest. And they don't have a legal trespass, and therefore I can enter and I can use a stun gun, and I cannot be arrested. I know I can't ask for help from the police because they won't help me, but I can defend my own self and get in. That's my main issue here today is trespassing, and I almost was arrested on Christmas Eve because I used a stun gun to try to go and worship our Lord. Because they won't let me in. Furthermore, Mayor Bass is not the mayor of Los Angeles. Lester Friedman was elected by a duly election, and riders, bicycles and scooters cannot ride on the sidewalk, and the police are doing nothing about any of these issues. Okay? That's
Next, we have Steve Riley over Zoom.
Excuse me, everyone. Everyone who has signed up will have their opportunity to speak at the podium for 3 minutes. I am asking you to please be respectful of their time. You will have your opportunity. If you can't follow that, you will be escorted out of this room. Thank you. Madam Secretary, next call.
Steve
next
Riley?
person, please.
Yes, I'd like to speak on all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. The United States is a constitutional republic. Christ is king and all lives matter. I'd like to wish everyone a happy, healthy, safe, and blessed new year. Since I only get 3 minutes, I posted a letter on the website, lapdonline.org. I hope everyone takes a moment to take a look at the letter. There's also a letter there from Voices for LAPD, which I encourage everyone to take a look at, which has some great suggestions. Now, the police commission president, in the beginning of the meeting, instead of going over what the police commission did over the last year, she made a political statement, which I will address probably next week or in a letter. The two things I'd like to point out, these are core values of the LAPD. Reverence for the law. Reverence for law means federal, state, and local law, not just the laws that you think should be enforced. So reverence for the law, let's keep that in mind. The other thing is quality through continuous improvement. What did the police commission do in the last year to improve things? Just very basic things like communication with the public. Here we are, 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, where most people are either working or going to school. Why can't the time be changed to the evening where more people can participate? Last year, we were supposed to have 2 additional meetings in the community, which did not happen. So communication is key. What did you do in the last year, 2025, to improve community policing? That's what you should be reporting on. By the way, January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. That should be focused on, because related to human trafficking are the crimes of murder, assassination, deadly assaults, kidnapping, torture, extortion, corruption, robbery, and the sex trade. What are we doing in that area? The local LAPD, the state, and federal law enforcement should be working together on these issues. God bless the LAPD. God save Los Angeles. Thank you.
Next, we have Gabriel Cabrera.
Good morning. Good morning. This is the 5th time
Excuse me, Mr. Cabrera. Sergeant of Arms, can you identify the person who is being disruptive? Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Okay. This is the 5th time I come before the police commission, and I'm an ex-LAPD officer. I did 15 years for the city of LA, and pretty much they were the best years of my life. I understand the frustration that some of these people are feeling here, and the police are people like anybody else. They're not perfect, but this city would not exist if the police were not here. It would be horrible. I'm not saying they're perfect, but we need the police department, but that's not why I'm here. I just wanted to tell you guys, because I feel so much anger in the room. I'm here because I'm trying to get justice for myself. I've been picketing out in front of the headquarters for the last 4 years, and I've been assaulted numerous times, and I just simply want something to be right. I was a dedicated officer, and I became an officer because I wanted to help people. Some people want to help people. I was one of those police officers. And I got hurt. I got meningitis. I almost died. I was disabled from that injury. So they put me on the desk, and I did that job for years. And then I got into a family dispute, and my lawyer told me they're going to use this complaint to get rid of you. It's not about the complaint. It's because of your disability, and that's what happened. So I went to court, threw it out for statute issues. I went to appeals court, they threw it out. So now I'm appealing to the police commission. I had a brief conversation with Commissioner Sibley at the graduation last week. He was very gracious. He talked to me. He was very kind. And anytime you want to contact me, Commissioner Sibley, you have all my information. Once again, I'm not here to disrupt anything. I'm just here for justice, and coming out here and picketing for the last 4 years, I never thought in a million years I would be doing this. I'm an Army veteran. I served my country, and when I was a police officer, I was serving this city, and I loved it. I loved helping people. But now I have to help myself, and nobody's gonna help me. If I stay home and feel sorry for myself, nothing's gonna happen. I have to come out here every week and risk my life picketing, and I hope you guys can help me. I really do, because I don't like doing it. It's not easy. I'm 62 years old, and it's very painful. And being threatened every week, I don't like it. So if you can please help me, the police commission has that authority. You reinstated another officer a couple of years ago. He'd been there for 70 years. So you can do it. You can do it for me, please. I'm asking you. I'm begging you. Thank you.
Next, we have Jonathan Foster.
Jonathan Foster, there was no OIS, thank God for that. And 5B today, good job, Chief McDonald. And had to say hi, boners. So hopefully I can get this recording to come up.
The International Association of Chief of Police. How is the 72 hours determined, the most accurate? And so 72 hours is about the industry standard. The International Association of Chief of Police recommends a 72-hour period.
So I'll reference the International Chiefs of Police in a little bit. Now it's in the jurisdiction of the commission, but about Rolstead, last meeting Rolstead, right? On the video, the officers, the cam kill shot is on the video. Somehow I didn't see it. I scrolled right past it. I apologize. It is there. The officer still shot in the wrong place. There are 4 principles that were not followed. They could have saved Rolstead. Is this a hurry-up hire that did not get what I suggested? 5 years of training, minimum 35 years of age to carry a gun. Moving on. Then on Andre Jones. Remember Andre Jones? The commission is saying a reasonable officer is 7 officers shooting 1 guy 26 times, 23 into the house, and you're saying this is reasonable. And next, what I'm talking about isn't specifically you, the commission, okay? So, but the police, they lied, not the rank and file, the chiefs. The toilet mayor about the Chiefs. They were picking a chief. But before this, even going back, Illuminati Beck, Chief Charlie Beck was talking about bringing crime down when it was 2017 Trump, not the LAPD. And then they're always lying about Jamil Shaw Jr., that issue there. And on the Chiefs, right, the media broadcast whatever the LAPD tells them, and they lied for 6 straight years. They knew who the chief was going to be. They had a special deal. And on the recording of International Chiefs of Police, I'm stupefied to be an American after learning how the police and the city council and the government operate and who is actually not elected and is calling the shots, this very sick and evil group of people. I would never have known unless I spent 6 years here. There are some really sick, really evil, demonic people running things here in Los Angeles. The types of events that have taken place over the 6 years I have been here, specifically unique as to reveal the information, stuff I didn't want to know. I wasn't trying to know this. Los Angeles is run by, is not run by the voices of we the people. It's run by rich people internationally. I don't matter. They tell the police department what to do.
Tran Son Ha is next.
No reason to be a part of this.
Tran Son Ha? It's coming.
Mr. Foster, you're being disruptive.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Police Chief Jim McDonald. Thank you, Police Chief Joyce, and thank you for all police Los Angeles. I came here. I'm asking for your help me. We fight better for America. So your answer to me, you say you support me. God bless America. Thank you. President Donald Trump, USA Supreme Court, USA Medicare Central, USA healthcare system, USA healthcare improve quality control, USA Consumer Report, United Corporation, MAGA Control USA, they all never protect America. And this system control USA is broken. They doing all kind of dumb and lie, killing American people all over USA. They lie medication, treat American people mental health, and the medication killing American people brain become real mental health crisis all over USA. Also, they lie killing all of you MAGA member. They also lie killing Donald Trump. Donald Trump is support them. He not a president. He liar, killing all people living in United States of America. So I'm very serious to all American people. You have to support me and safety for all of us, and we will change America better, and we will change the whole world. If you support me, it's stronger and better for all of us. God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. So everybody make sure support me. Good for us. Thank you.
Next, we have Charmaine Elizabeth Johnson.
Yes, hello. This is the third meeting I've come to. I have a very severe situation that's taking place that I've brought to the board before. I am being sedated with date rape drugs by the police and FBI. My feet have been sliced. I've been injected on the streets. My hair has been cut to hide attempted murder. I'm being dispensed chemicals which are toxic in the missions, in all of the missions on Skid Row. I shouldn't even be in that vicinity. I don't take drugs, but I've been subjected to this because my businesses are being laundered by the city of Los Angeles and the police and the FBI. I am a victim of crime, which has been, evoked by them for the theft and laundering of my innovations. Lacour Inc., they're after my day spa, La Spot European Day Spa. That's why I'm still on the streets. They are denying me shelter, and I shouldn't even, they've taken my car even. They had someone steal my car keys and they had them take my car. And when I went to the Lexus dealer and had my keys made, paid $500 for my keys made, they had them actually retain my car. And they even steal my clothes for laundering so they can go in the banks and pose as me. It's a severe situation. I'm being denied free press at this point. All the news stations should be involved. This should be all over the news. I should have justice, and no justice is being served. Thank you. My name is Charmaine Elizabeth Johnson.
Next, we have Audit LA.
Who's that one? Good morning, I don't know, can you hear me through? Okay, they usually have a handheld one. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Where's your ADA accessibility?
Okay, thank you, I appreciate this one. Good morning. I want to talk about what happened with the shrine. Unfortunately, 3 minutes is not enough. But I've sent emails, I've asked for CPA requests, we're into March now for that. But I'm requesting a meeting, 15, 20 minutes with President Gordon, the chief, OIG, anybody, because I feel that the LAPD, it's getting worse with the Scientology to the point where you guys are like really breaking their own city codes, the laws and other things to the where we're at the point of it's going to be a lawsuit. Or I don't know how to get the attention. Do I have to file like a formal complaint against, I don't want to file a formal complaint against officers. It doesn't go anywhere, but I want to be heard. But there's no acknowledgement of anything I sent in. LAPD, okay, like somehow BSS gave them an event, like for their event at the Shrine, they $32,000, and I have the proof here, of police protection for Scientology, even though the event was inside. They shut down an entire city street, okay, even though the USC game was going, and they knew it was going to be a lot of traffic, and that's against the law. They're not, and they prevented, not only did they shut down the sidewalks where they said only locals can go, which is against any permit law in this city, can't do that, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, but their officers allowed Scientologists to check the IDs of anyone trying to go down the sidewalk to see if they belonged. So mind you, there's students, okay, I wouldn't want my students having Scientology looking at their IDs to see whether or not they belong on the street. Everyone belongs in that street, it's public. This stuff is absolutely illegal, it's unconstitutional, and I've been begging LAPD to step away from it, but not only are you not stepping away from it, it's like there's a level of collusion with CD9, who also participated, because Scientology, is the Kirsten Peterson come in and saying, we're in danger? They're not in danger. There's no, they spent $42,000 to keep Laura over the FM from trying to get a glimpse of her dad. I think 3 people showed up outside. But this is an indoor event with plenty of security. None of this should be happening. So I am requesting, because I cannot discuss this, or can you at least, where can I send, or do I need to do a formal complaint? What do I need to do to make sure that this is actually, because Chief, you told me a long time ago that you're a good listener, and I've been sending in like the stuff, and it's like I'm not getting any acknowledgement. So I don't know how to get the attention that this has to stop. It's escalating. I thank you for not showing up to the Hollywood parade, because again, there's a lot of nonsense there. It's got to stop. Like, we are asking LAPD to help the victims, and we don't have no idea where that's going. And I don't know if like there's orders from above you, or if Scientology's, I don't know, but that's what I'm requesting. Thank you.
Laura FM.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on that. I'm here to take down Scientology. I was born and raised in it, in the cult as a slave child, working 24/7, no outside. And I know you guys all know this, but let's bring up the Shrine Auditorium this year. We found out, look, here's the PTSD again, right, Jim? Because I came to you for help. I know that there is some officers that want help. They do want to help, especially when it comes to the cult of Scientology. But that's impossible when literally the permit here, Scientology paid $42,000 for a night at the Shrine Auditorium for what, 6 police officers? Where is that money going? I just lost my job because of Scientology's harassment to my personal job. I was a personal caregiver and an assistant for 15 years. Scientology, we've asked you, why are you not divorcing yourself from Scientology? Why? You can't. Because the Christmas parade is all paid for by Scientology. Author Services is a C organization, $47 a week, indentured slaves getting paid $47 a week to make sure that they run the Hollywood Christmas parade, to make sure that the whole block around the Shrine Auditorium is completely closed off. For what? Students are being ID'd by fucking indentured slaves of this cult on the sidewalk to see if they live in the neighborhood? What is this? The only reason they're not changing is because you guys are getting the money. LAPD, the permit is $42,000. LAPD got $32,000 of that for 6 police officers to stop 3 or 4 protesters, me and 3 other people, from observing and filming their behaviors. That's it. There's no crimes being done besides the people in Scientology who are attacking fucking protesters on a daily basis. Scientology has cameras and every way to verify who and when. Never once do you allow to make sure they get their footage when an attacker gets attacked. You don't do that. You guys are in bed with Scientology. You have to divorce yourself. Jim, every single goddamn permit I go and look at is violated. Everyone. And the LAPD is the one who gets away with it because they get paid. They're getting paid by Scientology to make sure that you keep their PR in. As you literally, they get away with child trafficking, child abuse, child molestation, rape, indentured fucking servants from other countries using the R1 visa because of this cult. Do you understand? This isn't gonna stop until you stop receiving money. Divorce yourself from Scientology.
William Good.
Good morning. So earlier, Commissioner Scobin asked Chief McDonald about journalists being given dispersal orders during the protest that happened the other day. Jim McDonald lied and said, well, we don't do that. Journalists aren't issued dispersal orders. Let me listen to this. Apparently it's not working. You gave a dispersal order. I sent it to all you guys. The video is there. You gave the dispersal order to the journalists, once again. And then you said, you know what, you can go stand in the media safe area, but there was none. There was none. You're a liar, Jim. It's all you do is lie. Now, you talked about the statistics related to crime last year. Crime went down. Murders went down. Shootings went down. But you know what didn't go down? Their money. Their money went up, right? Now, they tell us that the only way to decrease crime is to have more cops, but yet they have fewer cops, 1,000 fewer, than they had just a few years ago. Fewer cops, crime went down. You don't need more cops to reduce crime, Jim. Now, we're all pretty disturbed about what we're seeing happen throughout this country with these ICE raids and how things have escalated. We saw a woman die, and it was disgusting. We're all bothered by it, at least most of us. But nobody's talking about the shooting that happened last year with ICE here in LA, where somebody was killed. A woman from Ecuador called and asked for help from authorities because she was being trafficked. She said she was being raped. And when ICE got there, she told them that she was bleeding from her anus from being raped. And when ICE, they just kind of dismissed her and then threatened to lock her up for a 5150 because she's crazy. You know, she's crazy. It's pretty disgusting. The only thing is that wasn't ICE. That was the LAPD that did that. That was Jim McDonald's LAPD. That was Karen Bass's LAPD. And her name was Linda Bacara Moran. And you didn't do anything. Nobody cared about that then. You guys get upset when you're saying ICE do this. It's happening here. And no one gets upset. And it's not just LAPD. It's everywhere throughout the country. Police constantly killing people. But we're only getting upset when ICE does it. Where are you people when the police are doing it in our own communities on a regular basis? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, you guys are going to be voting on destroying some documents. You have 39 boxes of documents that you're going to get rid of. Don't do it. I put a CPRA in on them, 1421. You guys have a history of illegally destroying documents. You guys have admitted it to me. I have the emails proving it. Don't destroy them. We need to be able to preserve them so we can go through them to make sure that 1421 documents aren't being destroyed. Fuck you, Jim.
Next, we have Quinn. Quinn?
Madam
Is
Secretary?
Quinn here?
This week, among other items on your fucked up agenda, you have a report about RV rentals. What this really is an outline for future and past violence. The report talks about offering services from LASA, among other lip service assurances from various agencies, so you can pretend to have written this report under the guise of care. The reality of RV enforcement in LA is that LAPD tickets those who live in RVs, forcing them to pay exorbitantly high fines, and then towing folks when they can't pay their ridiculous tickets. We have seen our neighbors' homes being towed at all hours of the day, including when people leave for work, so when they come home, their bed, their house, their birth certificates, their family photos, and everything else they have ever owned has been vanished by you and a fucking tow truck. Instead of resources being offered during sweeps, people's property is stolen and the cops don't allow them to access their things. We've seen people have to leave their homes in nothing but slides because you won't even let them get a pair of shoes. Instead of education about van lords, as you term them, LAPD tickets people. This response is a 3-page long justification to blow LAPD's budget once again so that you can continue your violence. And this state violence took a deadly turn and a deadly form on New Year's, as many have been aptly mentioning, because law enforcement killed Keith Porter on New Year's Eve. Keith Porter was a father to 2 lovely children. Keith Porter was a family member, a community member, a neighbor, and he was celebrating New Year's. We know that this is not an isolated event limited to ICE or DHS. This isn't a one-off because of Trump's presidency or the federal government. This is because of you too. Porter was celebrating New Year's and an ICE agent killed him. That ICE agent, like every other law enforcement officer, has a bloodthirst that is trained into them by you. Every law enforcement agent in this country has an intent to cause harm, and too many times we have been here in front of this body telling you that you have oversight. You claim to have oversight over these killings, over these bodies of people that continue to murder our neighbors and our brothers and our fathers and our sisters. Keith Porter should be here right now. He should be here with his family members and his community. But in the sanctuary city that you claim to uphold, ICE is allowed to enact violence throughout all blocks of this city. LAPD and ICE have been in lockstep for years, but on New Year's Eve, LAPD has been working with ICE on how to get away with murder. Those of you on the podium typically serve to clean up the mess and mop up the blood at a murder scene after LAPD, and now you're doing it for ICE too. You've been doing it for Linda Becerra Moran when they called you, and you say that you have a quote-unquote recruitment problem, but you have no shortage of manpower to cover up crime scenes. This is the daily functioning of LAPD. From Keith Porter to Jeremy Flores, Linda Becerra Moran, Hugo Cachola, they should all be alive right now, and it's your fucking fault.
Madam President, we're at 46 minutes and we have over 20 cards left. How would you like to proceed?
We will proceed with 25 minutes more.
Okay. Grace?
Call the next speaker.
Porter was murdered, not by an accident, not by a misunderstanding, not by a rogue off-duty agent. Keith Porter was killed by the state, by the same machinery of policing and immigration enforcement that this board oversees, legitimizes, and protects. Keith Porter was a father, a son, a neighbor. He was celebrating the New Year with his community when an off-duty ICE agent stole his life. And even now, weeks later, his family still does not have the name of the man who killed him. That silence is not neutral. It is policy. It is how law enforcement compounds violence, first with a bullet, then with secrecy, delay, and bureaucratic cruelty. You want the public to believe in the myth of Los Angeles as a sanctuary city, but there's no sanctuary when LAPD and ICE are functionally indistinguishable. There's no sanctuary when LAPD trains alongside ICE, shares intelligence, shares technology, shares values, and shares a mandate to police Black and brown life out of public space. Sanctuary collapses the moment policing exists because policing is designed to protect property, borders, and whiteness, not people. And we see the same violence playing out in Skid Row every single day. Today's agenda includes so-called protections for people living in RVs, as mentioned earlier. Let's be clear, this is not about safety. This is not about support. This is a displacement blueprint. LAPD, DOT, and LASA already admit that RV residents are afraid to provide identifying information because they fear retaliation, criminalization, and losing their only shelter. And instead of responding by stopping enforcement, you respond by escalating it. Shame. Homes are being towed, birth certificates are being confiscated, children's toys are being thrown away, families are being scattered, and the people most impacted are Black and brown communities. The same communities LAPD has always targeted, from Skid Row to South Central. Keith Porter's murder is not separate from this. It is part of the same continuum of violence. Whether it's an off-duty ICE agent or an on-duty LAPD officer, the outcome is the same. Black life is treated as disposable. You cannot reform this. You cannot train this away. You cannot oversight your way out of a system whose foundation is control, removal, and death. LAPD will always collaborate with ICE because they were built for the same purpose. LAPD will always criminalize poverty because poverty threatens the order they exist to defend. Justice for Keith Porter, justice for all of those murdered by the state, and abolish the police.
Hamid Khan. Next we have Hamid Khan. Hamid Khan, okay. Jason Reedy. Oh, Hamid Khan.
At least I'm glad that we're speaking about what happened to Keith Porter as a law enforcement operation. And as we have said so many times and documented that and shown that LAPD is one of the biggest exporters of state violence. Not only training El Salvadorian paramilitary squads, not only training the U.S. Marine Corps to how to use these urban guerrilla warfare tactics and counterinsurgency tactics in Iraq, ICE is very much in hand in glove with the LAPD. This is the myth of the sanctuary city that we've been talking about. These are the lies because LAPD is providing sanctuary to ICE. LAPD is providing safety to Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol. That's exactly the fallacy and the lies that we have been exposing over here, week after week after week. Keith Porter, as everybody else has said, and the cousin who was speaking about it, he should have been alive. He should have been here. But again, as a normal law enforcement operation, off-duty officer-involved killings are numerous. Salvador Sanchez, the LAPD cop who shot this intellectually disabled young man at Costco. The other shooting that happened in Boyle Heights at Hollenbeck Station. It's an ongoing routine. It's a practice. It's the intent to cause harm. And that's why we need to abolish this system. You cannot reform this fuckery. You cannot change that. These are all the overseers. Just as slave catchers have set the tone for the institutions, that's exactly what's going on with ICE as well. Same patterns. Let's see what's happening in Minneapolis. Why the Somali community is being impacted. Errol Southers was the main architect of CVE, Countering Violent Extremism program. Minneapolis was a pilot city for the launching of that program. The Somali youth were at the center of demonizing the immigrant community. LAPD is the launching pad for CVE as well. LAPD started that. Mike Downing used to be the deputy chief who testified in front of Congress. Errol Southers, who was the president of the police commission, testified in front of Congress, saying, and I may miss the code a little bit here and there, that and to the extent that anybody in America who identifies themselves as a Muslim is a potential domestic terrorist. This is a direct quote from Errol Southers. So this is how they put targets on us. That's why you can't reform this sick system. And that's why we keep on coming back.
Jason Reedy.
All right, so 2025 has come to a close, and LAPD is once again the most murderous pig department in the nation. 2025 saw the most shootings by LAPD in a decade with 47, and LAPD shot and killed at least 17 people. And that's the most people since 2021. And even in 2021, you claim to have only shot and killed 17 people, but we all know you chose not to include the killing of bystanders like Valentina Oriana Peralta in that count. Now, since the Pinkest of Pigs likes to make comparisons between LAPD and Chicago PD and NYPD, I want to break down the numbers on this one. In 2025, NYPD had 28 shootings, killing 14. And for the record, NYPD has 34,700 pigs compared to LAPD's 8,640. CPD had 23 shootings, killing 9 with 11,541 pigs in their pen. Now, we heard Troy talk last month about how tough it was to draw comparisons to other pig departments when it comes to shootings, as if we don't hear your swine comparing LAPD, comparing the LAPD to other departments in other aspects. And when Troy started to claim that certain info about shootings from other departments isn't always available, this completely is devoid from the fact that LAPD is deeply entrenched in data sharing with pigs in different departments, states, and agencies. Your pigs murdered Lawrence Gonzalez on December 31st, and 13 days have passed without the names of his killers being released. If any of us murdered someone, our name would be front and center. But when the LAPD kills someone, this department, with the commission's consent, delays the release of the names of their killers for weeks at a time. Now we're seeing you partner with ICE in concealing the name of Keith Porter Jr.'s murder. You called this murder a, quote, confrontation. Never mentioned the fact that another resident at that complex reported bullet holes in their wall, fired by Keith Porter's murderer. And to add to all that, this ICE pig was off duty. And just like LAPD does with its own, if a pig is off duty and commits a crime, they look the other way. So here you have this pig murder a black father and put the lives of other residents in danger, and all LAPD can say is, it wasn't us. Now, Jim, I watched your little interview with Conan Nolan. Not surprisingly, Jim couldn't say what he thought about the shooting of Renee Good because it was, quote, unfair to make an opinion. Suddenly, Jim has nothing to say about when a pig murders someone. In that same interview, you referred to the murder of George Floyd as a, quote, incident. You told Conan Nolan the department was in relatively good shape after the, quote, worst city budget in history. You know, the one where LAPD got their biggest budget ever. And McDonald said that shootings aren't a training issue, claiming that LAPD is the best trained department in the nation, so there shouldn't be any more requests for funding for these bullshit trainings, as they are only meant to pad the pockets of your pigs. Now, since we're gonna do character assassinations of fathers, Fabian, I want to ask you, since, you know, my parenting has been made a topic of discussion by this commission and department, why don't you tell the people, how long did you leave your family for to rubber stamp LAPD's terror and violence on December 16th? For those that don't know, Fabian came to commission for about, 5 hours that day, leaving his wife and their 3-week-old child at home so he could come run cover for the LAPD. What a real man you are, Fabian. Do you want to tell Jim how you were going to quit being commissioner when he was appointed?
Madam Secretary, call the next speaker, please.
Next, we have Michael Williams. Michael Williams.
I'm here to talk about one thing and one thing only. Why is the murderer of Keith Porter Jr., that ICE agent, not in handcuffs in a jail and having pending prosecution for murder? That's the only thing I care about. That's the only thing I'm worried about. That's the only thing I want to hear y'all say. Because if this was anyone else, if a citizen or even a security guard saw someone walking, not shooting, not firing, saw someone walking, and then went back into their house, got their gun, got their vest, then came out and shot that person in front of their door, that person would be in handcuffs. There would be no self-defense argument plausible. But because it's an off-duty ICE agent, who even if he was on duty, would not have the right to do what he did, does not have the jurisdiction to have him involved in what he was trying to involve himself in, all of a sudden now he gets his name hidden? Now all of a sudden he don't get no charges? They just ask him nicely, what did you do? What happened? Okay, you say self-defense. Okay, that's good for us. Y'all have been complicit with ICE before the raids. The reason why they know where to go, why they're tracking people's cars, is because of y'all. You guys gave them ICE license plate reader information and are continue to do so. Hamid, have they said if they've stopped that practice? And y'all refuse to do an investigation on the illegal sharing of information between LAPD and ICE. And you call yourself a civilian body. You call yourself an oversight body. You're over here congratulating yourselves about what work you guys have done. You've done nothing. I don't come here, and I think I speak for a lot of us, we don't come here because we expect y'all to do anything. We come here because there's no better example of how ineffective, how cruel, how callous, and how corrupt the city of Los Angeles is than the LA Police Commission. And we're here to expose you. We're here to expose you. That's why we're here. And if you think I'm wrong, then prove me wrong.
Next, we have Greg Akili. Greg Akili.
Did you call her name?
You know, Michael, we should put what you said on a loop and just play it over and over again. Today, we are here and to do two things: to demand transparency, accountability, and to do it in a timely fashion. One of the things that Michael talked about was, and many people have made reference to, is this so-called sanctuary city. Keith Foster was killed, was murdered by an off-duty ICE officer, which means he was not fulfilling his role. And so that would require an immediate investigation. If the situation had been reversed, you'd have my name plastered across all newspapers. So the first thing we want to do is reveal who the murderer is. We know he's an off-duty ICE agent, and we want this investigation done in a timely fashion, in 30 days. Now, I find it interesting that I'm from Black Lives Matter, and we've come here and challenged y'all a lot. I'm asking you to do something that under different circumstances, I would never trust. And I still don't trust that you're going to do it. But at least we have to be here to make the demand. If we had not been here to make the demand, Grishario's Mac killers would have never been at least prosecuted. And so that's why we had to be here. That's why many of us are here. One, an immediate publishing of the name of the off-duty ICE officer. 2, transparency. 3, a timely investigation. And 4, recommendations that he be prosecuted, that person be prosecuted by the DA. We sat with the DA on Monday of last week, and he said, well, we don't know if we're going to do anything. We'll wait for the police. That's like saying, that's like the fox saying we'll wait for the chicken to come around. We can't trust you. We can't trust you or them. But here we are. As Michael just said, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. Now, many of us have been here before, and you've always proven us right. You always take the side of the police over the people. You've done that every time we've come here. And I suspect that you'll do the same thing now. A 30-day investigation. Tell us who the ICE officer was. Full transparency and accountability, and a complete investigation. And it should be, I would honestly say it should be independent because I don't trust y'all. But let's start with you.
Sheila Bates.
We should put what you said on a loop.
Sheila Bates.
Over and over again.
Excuse me. I don't think they called your name. Have a seat, please.
I apologize. Thank you.
Chief McDonald, you know you need to be removed. You know you've been a Nazi, a terrorist to the communities, and I seen your interview with Marquise talking about y'all are supporting or trying to stop human trafficking. You're a lie. The human trafficking is at DHS. The human trafficking is the president's running the office. You need to get justice. We need to get justice for Keith Porter. We know you hiding him. We know you snuck him out in the middle of the night. We know that you're hiding him. You need to get us justice for black and brown people. Protect your community. Stop being a fucking Nazi. Stop being like your fucking president. You have to have some type of heart. The fact that y'all have some sensitivity to a baby crying, that says a lot about all y'all hearts. All y'all up there. Y'all some fucking demons. We need to get justice for black and brown people, and this blood is on your hands, Chief McDonald, Keith Porter. This should have never happened. And the fact that you got these ICE agents in our community, and now y'all want to protect them, we know you're hiding them. Release the name. Release. And then get him arrested. He needs the death penalty. And if you don't do that, you need the same, every Nazi in here need the same consequences as Charlie Kirk. Because y'all are evil, terrorist people. Justice for Keith Porter. Justice for every black and brown people that's been taken off the street by ICE since Trump got in office. Period. Fuck you, Chief.
Next, we have Dr. Melina Abdullah.
I want to co-sign what Hamid Khan said, that we come here sometimes with false hope that you'll do something, but we know that the truth is not. You won't do anything. You won't do anything. Michael said we're here to expose you. We're here to expose you. We know who you are, Chief McDonald. You were the ICE sheriff, and now you're the ICE chief. We know that you collaborated with ICE, and that's why you were voted out in favor of Alex Villanueva, because Angelenos thought that even he was better than you. It's shameful that Karen Bass appointed you over the will of the people. It's shameful. And you continue to prove who you are, a racist, anti-black, anti-migrant fascist. It is terrible. Teresa Gordon Sanchez, what's terrible about you is you're married to a black man. You got black people in your family. And instead of condemning this murder of this black father, Keith Porter was a girl dad. Keith Porter was a worker. Keith Porter was someone who saw the humanity in everybody. And instead of lifting him up, what do? You condemn a black father and tell him to control his child. You tell the 4-month-old to control their conversation. You point to people who are saying there's extra seats in here for people to come in and call them disruptors. Well, you should be called on to disrupt this bullshit. You should be disrupting what happened to Keith Porter. You should be calling for justice in his name, Judge Teresa. If you're really about justice, then be about justice and stop betraying who you say you love. You say you love your husband, then stand up for a black father. Do something. The demands are clear. We want that ICE agent to be named, to be arrested, and for y'all to quit with the fucking character assassination. You allowed LAPD to get out there and call him a suspect. He's the fucking victim. To call him an active shooter. The shooter was an ICE agent that killed Keith Porter. Shame on y'all. Look, y'all, ultimately justice is in our hands. Justice means holding this fool accountable. Sign the petition for justice for Keith Porter, tinyurl.com/sign-for-Keith. And all of them are appointed by Mayor Bass. If they don't do what we need them to do, then she needs to suffer the political repercussions. Vote her ass out. She's running for office.
Madam Secretary.
Next, we have Eva Stumbos.
Here's what I'll say about the murder of Keith Porter. Jesus said, love thy neighbor, not kill thy neighbor. It's not acceptable on any moral or legal anything. Release his name, arrest him, and end the character assassination of Keith Porter, a loving father. Thank you.
Next, we have T.
Hello, and bad morning to all of y'all. First off, congratulations on not shooting or killing anyone in just 2 weeks. That's gotta be a new record for y'all. LAPD is the most murderous police force in the nation. You routinely harass real workers, real working class Black and brown people in the city, which we know police are not. Police are not real workers. They are a corrupt criminal organization. Every single time I see a cop, they are on their phone playing games in their car. They are sitting in their cars doing nothing at all. They are eating at restaurants surrounded by real civilians, real workers, and they're sitting in there with their badges and loaded firearms in these restaurants where real living people are. They're waiting in the streets to harass Black and brown youth, and they are assisting ICE, despite this being a quote-unquote sanctuary city. They are crafting narratives that excuse ICE criminal behavior. They are covering up the murder of Keith Porter Jr. and hiding the ICE murderer responsible. They refuse to conduct a transparent investigation for the people. You say you disapprove of ICE's actions, Teresa, but your officers are aiding and abetting them. The LAPD is a corrupt and gluttonous criminal organization that is aided and abetted by all of you here today. Their shady criminal acts are covered up by you all and their lobbying organization, the LA Police Protective League, and the district attorney and the mayor, Karen, and all others before her and all commissioners before you. Why is it that every single government agency in Los Angeles is getting defunded except for the police? While other actual civil servants are being laid off, the sham of an agency is getting even more of our tax dollars. You are all wildly unpopular in the streets, and you all know it, which is why your fragile-ass cops are on the streets violently harassing civilians who simply hurt your feelings. We saw the sheriff's deputy say that their feelings were hurt by a Starbucks worker drawing a pig cartoon on the cup. That is representative of every single fuck-ass cop with a fragile ego in this room, who have 6 months of mandatory training and are out here killing people. What the fuck are you gonna do about that? These are criminals. No amount of dehumanizing our lives will erase the stain of the blood on your hands. Your officers are a stain on humanity. You are not God, and God did not leave these pathetic excuses for human beings in charge. You do not get to decide who lives and who dies. So let me say this right now. If you are gonna hold yourselves accountable, which I know you're not, I call on the blood of my ancestors, whose blood is all woven up and through this land, to curse you all, to curse your descendants for 7 generations. I curse you until the day my people receive nothing. You know the pain that we have felt for centuries.
Madam President.
Madam Secretary.
Madam President, we're now at 26 minutes. Madam President, we're now at 26 minutes over the 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Terry, how many more do we have on the list to speak?
We have 22 more speakers left.
All right, we have 22 more speakers. We cannot take 22 more speakers. We're going to take 4 more, and then public comment will be over.
Okay.
Call the next
We have
speaker,
Gabriel from Central CSO. Gabriel? Okay. Camille Lewis.
You're trash. Justice for Keith Porter. I can't believe you're not taking the 22 people. You said everybody would get to speak. Justice for Keith Porter.
Next, we have TJ. Is TJ here?
Yes, fuck ICE, fuck LAPD, the most murderous police department in the country. We demand that the LAPD release the name of the law enforcement agent who killed Keith Porter while he was simply celebrating the promise of what could have been a new year. What is the delay other than LAPD's constant attempts to cover up the wrongful death of Keith Porter and the constant cover-ups and lies regarding the murders of Black, Brown, and Indigenous community members? It is systemic, it is perpetual, it needs to end. Fuck the police, fuck ICE. Also, stop criminalizing the life and existence of Keith Porter with the incessant character assassination that has been seen since his death, to in some fucked up way try to justify Keith's murder by some off-duty, vigilante, bullshit, white supremacist, domestic terrorist who will be continuing to terrorize our city and kill more Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks unless you all force their identification and get them off the streets. Unlike anyone in this commission, Keith exuded love for his community and cared deeply about all those he loved, a father, a son, a cousin, and someone loved by everyone who knew him. Do the right thing, expose Keith's murderer.
Next, we have Megan.
Teresa, I cannot believe that you had the nerve to give little opening remarks about how sad you were about the year that we had, and you listed the ICE raids as one of the reasons why you're sad, as if you don't know that the body that you are supposedly in charge of accountability for actively collaborates with them. It's ridiculous. You also want to say you're sad about officer-involved shootings? Shut the fuck up. That's what you're in charge of. That's what you're in charge of. You don't get to say that you're sad about it. This guy told the LA Times that he was proud of the year that he had last year. He told the LA Times he was proud in a year in which police shootings were up 70%, in a year in which you used tear gas on protesters for the first time in 50 years in defiance of the Geneva Convention, in a year in which you went to court to fight for the right to shoot journalists. Fuck you. You're disgusting. Fabian, you are a useless bootlicking sack of shit. Do you understand me? How dare you get up there and be like, I'm looking forward to working with the team to get some memos and some data to address these shootings. Are you fucking kidding me? There are people in here that have been coming to these meetings for 10 years. You guys have been talking about the training and the data for longer than that. You're worth nothing. Jeffy, I know that you like to think of yourself as like a liberal and asking the hard questions. All your hard questions are about the journalists. Are you able to empathize with them because more of them look like you? Is that why you're concerned about their unjust killings and the LAPD treating them unjustly? I think so. How about speaking up for the other people that are shot by LAPD and the other people that are treated unlawfully by LAPD? Jesus Christ, it's literally nauseating listening to you guys ask your non-questions and pretend like you're doing something. You're thanking these people for volunteering 20 to 30 hours a week unpaid. You guys spend 20 to 30 hours a week unpaid to run cover for the deadliest fucking police department in the country. 20 to 30 hours unpaid doing that. You are demons. You are demons. I also watched a video of LAPD arresting a homeless man who was refusing to leave his tent because they had made him leave the day before that and the day before that in torrential downpour. That's right. That's all you guys do. You have no business being there. And this little sniveling report, you release about how you're gonna work with people to provide services. It's bullshit. We all know that it's bullshit. Justice for Keith Porter. We know you don't give a shit about him, but we're here to say it anyway. Fuck you guys. I can't wait.
Gina Viola.
I'm so glad I got a new way to address you now. Y'all some fucking demons. Oh. Jim McDonald, I want to go on record each and every fucking time I get up here to say that you are an ICE-loving slave catcher. That is who you are. That is why you were hired to run this department. How do I know this? Because you gave a Know Your Rights training on the West Side after ICE rolled into town. So you're telling ICE where they can go door to door in Echo Park, but not on the West Side, right? You're protecting folks on the West Side from their gardeners and their nannies and their housekeepers from getting snatched. That's what you're doing. And the rest of you, you're the fucking watchdogs for white supremacy. That's what you are. You normalize the anti-blackness in this city so deeply and daily. 20 to 30 hours of your volunteer work, we know why you're doing it. To enrich your own lives. We know what happens after you sit on this commission for a couple years. Your nonprofits get richer. You get fucking podcasts like Shane Murphy Goldsmith. You get property like Steve Soberoff. You get named the rebuilding czar, right, of the West Side like Steve Soberoff. We know that's why you're here. You're not here to protect us. You were not here to protect Keith Porter. You are not here to protect anyone. You are here to run cover for the 70% increase the LAPD has seen on police shootings in this city. That is despicable. Listening to your report is nauseating. Hearing you talk about how you don't even have the proper tools to report the data accurately. All the money that we give you, you get all the money this city has, and you don't even have the tools to report the data accurately? But that'll change next year? Sure it will. Suing, do you know that you can't even sue the fucking LAPD? You have to sue the city of Los Angeles. So if I want to sue you motherfuckers, I have to sue myself because I fucking live here. Most of your officers do not. I believe it's 90% of your officers don't even live in the city. So I have to sue myself to get some fucking justice from you. And who's at fault for that? This body right here. This body right here that spends more time reading from a script about what decorum looks like in this room. Let me tell you something. The indigenous had words for children that translated to sacred beings. Sacred beings. And you make them out to be the problem. You exhibit that here in this room with a 4-month-old and 4-year-old, right? Well, how do we know you're treating our youth out in the city? We know. We know how you're treating our youth out in the city, just like you do in this room. We know how you're treating black and brown folks out in the city, just like you do in this room. You are a fucking disgrace. You should all resign today.
Madam Secretary?
Madam President, that was the additional speakers.
Could you repeat
When that concludes public comment.
Concluded? Public comment has concluded. We are going to move now to our next item. The Board of The Board of Police Commissioners cannot conduct an orderly meeting because the people are not orderly. This creates an actual disruption. If it does not immediately, I will order the room cleared pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.9. We are going to move now to the next agenda item. Please have a seat. Because the disruptions have not stopped and the board is unable to conduct an orderly meeting, I am ordering the room cleared pursuant to the California Government Code Section 54957.9. Officers, please clear the room. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 12:22 p.m., January 13, 2026. We are back on the record, and we're going to move to the consent agenda items, point 3 on the calendar. And Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Madam President. We have consent agenda item 3A through F. Please note that 3F will be continued to a future date. So we will only be voting on 3A through E. Do any commissioners wish to pull any agenda items?
Commissioner Garcia?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Scobin?
I would like to pull B and C.
3B and 3C.
Commissioner Sanchez Gordon, would you like to pull any items?
I do not.
Okay, so we will be voting on item 3A, 3D, and 3E. Do we have a motion to approve the recommended action items?
There is a motion to approve 3A, 3D, and 3E.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We'll now hear item 3B. And we have Police Administrator Phillips. Commissioner Scobin?
Good morning, everyone.
No, it's
Jeffrey
good
Phillips.
afternoon.
Oh, right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Jeffrey Phillips, Commanding Officer of Records Identification Division. Any questions?
Good afternoon. Yeah, it was brought up as a point of concern today, so I feel an obligation to at least follow up on it. What guarantees and comfort should the public have that the department is 100% compliant in the destruction of these documents?
Yes, we work closely with the city clerk's office and follow the city policy in regard to the retention policy and the destruction policies. Each commanding officer has a retention policy within their respective divisions, and they will put it out, and it's approved via the chain of command. And so there's a lot of eyes as to what is being destroyed.
And is the ultimate, approval on this, or the checks and balances on it, documented in the event that there was an issue later on that was discovered, or improperly destruction of documents?
I'm sorry.
Meaning, is there a paper trail that would show, who authorized what in the event that there was something destroyed in error?
That's correct. And you will see in the authority to dispose of obsolete records, you will have the authority that is signing. Usually it's the commanding officer of the division that is signing for the destruction of records.
Okay. And then out of curiosity, are any of these documents kept digitally?
Yes, particularly, for example, we'll say some our officer-involved shooting investigations are kept in digital form indefinitely.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I think that's an important, distinction to make, in the public domain, that, those documents that seem to be of higher sensitivity are still kept in a digital format. So thank you very much for clarifying that.
You're very welcome.
Commissioner Garcia, any comment?
No, thank you.
No follow-up? Thank you. All right, I don't have any. Is that it, Commissioner Scobin? All right, Madam Secretary?
Okay, we will vote on Commissioner Scobin, did that answer your questions for item 3C as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll vote on agenda item 3B and C. Do we have a motion to accept the recommended actions?
Yes, I move that 3B and 3C proceed.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 4A, the department's report relative to improving 911 call response times. And we have Captain Chogyoji.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Captain Alex Chogyoji, Commanding Officer, Communications Division. With me here today, I have Lieutenant Emmanuel Sanchez, the Assistant Commanding Officer of Communications Division, and I have Senior PSR2 Robert Lopez, the OIC for the Operations Support Unit.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. All right, we're going to hear a report on the improving 911 calls response time. Is that correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
Proceed.
So at the direction of the Los Angeles City Council, the LAPD Communications Division evaluates staffing, operational and technological strategies to improve emergency 911 and non-emergency call answering times. So I'm going to provide a briefing that summarizes these key findings, impacts, constraints, and recommendations. The data you're about to hear was submitted as of October 30th. But if you want to have updated information regarding our staffing and call answering for the year, we do have updated information for your edification. So our current status as of October, our PSR hiring trend, in 2024, we hired 144 police service representatives. In 2025, it was 56. Now, this represents a 62% decrease year over year. Our training pipeline, 73 PSRs were currently in training, 66 PSRs fully qualified from 2024 hires, and 28 additional PSRs were expected to qualify before the end of 2025. 45 PSRs hired in 2025 expected to qualify by October 2026. So understand that the training and qualification, it takes a while. There's actually 3 different qualifications. Usually PSRs have like customarily a year to qualify, and being a radio telephone operator and an emergency board operator, which are call takers for 911 and 912, and auxiliary telephone operators, which are those folks who do callbacks and they do service requests for our folks in the field. So they have to qualify on all 3 of those inside of the year, and then they have an additional 6-month probation after that. So that's why it takes so long in the process in terms of training and qualifying them for these different functions. So as far as attrition, we have lost 75 PSRs from January to August 2025. This represents an 11.9% attrition rate. This is driven by probationary terminations, resignations, reversions, and retirements. The key implication here is that once the 73 trainees are fully qualified, Communications Division anticipates a significant net staffing increase, and that will directly improve both emergency and non-emergency call answering capacity. And please do let me know if you have any questions during my presentation. So secondly, the impact of staffing on call response and hold times. Emergency call performance, Communication Division receives on average about 332 emergency calls per hour. To meet national standards, which is set by the National Emergency Number Association, which is 90% answered within 15 seconds, we need approximately 100 emergency board operators per 24-hour period. As of October 29, 2025, we had 92 PSR vacancies, and Communications Division remains staffed at a fraction of what we need in terms of PSRs. The call volume for 2024 was 2.95 million 911 calls received and 2.4 million answered. In 2025, that number was 2.39 million received and 2.04 million answered. And again, that 2025 number was through October. We can get you the full year as we've completed 2025. if you so wish to want that. Staffing gains matter. Vacancies were reduced from 162 vacancies, which is DP8 in 2024, to 70 in DP8 2025. So, certainly the hiring had a direct impact on the number of vacancies. And data shows that there's a direct correlation between the number of PSRs we have assigned to 911 and the ability to meet that call answering standard. So you can clearly see with staffing increases that there's greatly a reduced amount of time in terms of our call answering and call answering rates. So the increased staffing has reduced emergency calls spilling into secondary queues, avoiding 10 to 30-second delays per call, and that's huge when you're given over 300 calls a day, or per hour. Sorry. Limitations: because PSRs must also staff RTO, ATO, and command positions, and the call volume is unpredictable, the exact impact of new hires cannot be precisely quantified. So not all of these new hires are going to be going to the EBO function, but there's radio telephone operators those are the folks that dispatch to our field units, and ATOs who do callbacks and they do service requests. They have very specific functions, so understand that not all PSRs on the floor are taking 911 or 912 non-emergency calls. There are other functions that we also have to staff on the floor. So with regards to technology, modernization, and non-emergency call handling, current risks, dispatch consoles and infrastructure are obsolete, unsupported, and failure prone. And there are no replacement parts available. All of our equipment is as old as the facility, which is over 20 years. And so in our budget request for 2025-26, we have asked for, in the budget, to have all of our consoles replaced, simply because the manufacturer no longer has replacement parts. And so we've asked for replacement parts. We've asked for software to help with analytics and to integrate AI to help with productivity and call efficiency. This also includes transcription and performance management to ensure that they're asking the right questions when callers call in. And I think the transcription portion is really helpful because you don't have them having to type everything a caller is calling in. They will verify that, on the other hand, to make sure that what is being transcribed is what is being stated on the line. But I think this is really going to help with efficiency, call efficiency, the call time that we have with callers, and being able to handle more calls. So that's handling more with less. So our planned solution, we did have it in the budget for 26-27, replacing legacy systems, rewiring, modernizing dispatch centers, and also preparing for next generation 911. Also proposed technology enhancements is the AI-assisted call summaries and structured notes, real-time multilingual translation, live phone and radio transcription, automated quality assurance, and supervisory analytics aligned with communications division policy. So this AI system that we're trying to integrate, it will actually translate language, I think 40 languages, and or maybe 35 languages, and it will respond in like 40 languages. It's quite amazing. And again, when we talk about this AI and technology, we're not talking about replacing PSRs with AI, right? It's a tool, and we'll have a PSR on the line to make sure, that what's being transcribed and is what is being spoken on the line. So, but I think it's a tool that really will benefit our PSRs in terms of, cutting down on time. And then right now we're using a translation service. So there's a delay there when we have to connect with a translation service through the Office of Emergency Management or a paid, service for translation. So that will certainly help out with shortening delays. But again, AI is not there to replace our PSRs. It's there to be a tool to assist them. Now, with regards to dedicated non-emergency operators feasibility assessment findings, we looked at establishing PSRs dedicated solely to non-emergency calls. So that was something that was either suggested or proposed, or they wanted us to look at that. And I think, first of all, you kind of understand that PSRs, there are PSRs that are staffed for non-emergency calls, but understand that 911 calls will always take a priority, which is to say I can convert all my emergency board operators over to 912 call takers, and they will still have to take 911 calls as a priority, right? So I think some folks think the fix is, hey, we need to have more 912 operators. That really isn't the case, because you can basically make all of my PSRs non-emergency call operators. They're still going to have to take 911 calls in priority over non-emergency calls. So when you hear folks saying that, hey, I'm on a non-emergency call and I'm on hold, and this is after it's been answered, on hold for a long time, well, that's because our EBOs are answering 911 calls in priority. And so we can only move on to 912 calls once the 911 calls we answer that and dispatch for them. And then we then triage over to 912. So I think it's rather rudimentary to say that we need more 912 operators or we need to staff more for that, when in fact 912 operators still have to answer 911 calls as a priority. So so we think that would, if we had what they suggested, which is have 912 operators that will not answer 911 calls, it's going to create a huge public safety and city liability if that's the model we're going along. Again, our policies at Communications Division, it's very clear that even if you're on a 912, you're staffing a 912 line, you have to pick up a 911 call before addressing a non-emergency call for service. So ultimately, though, if having more PSRs to handle emergency board operator positions, certainly it would be more efficient. We'd be able to handle the capacity to answer more 911 calls efficiently, and thereby getting to 912 non-emergency calls quicker, right? So the wait time should be shortened. And it's really contingent upon having more staffing. And that's really the bottom line for either of those, is we just need more PSRs. And I think when we look at like the number of vacancies in 2025 versus 2024, there's a direct correlation between our improvements in call answering, the number of calls that we handle, the speed at which we handle it, and that's really one of the only factors we can really have a play in. We can't, there's no way of knowing how many 911 calls we'll get in a day. There are certain times of year, obviously during some holidays, where we have an uptick in 911 calls. But that's something you can't plan for and predict, right? Like how many 911 calls am I going to get tomorrow? We honestly can't calculate for that. But what we can do is calculate for staffing, and that's the biggest impact to call answering. One of the things we were asked to look at is a separate line for unarmed crisis response under the UMCR program. Certainly handling nonviolent, non-urgent calls like welfare checks, mental illness indicators. There are some certain calls that are not eligible. For instance, if there's weapons, violence, minors involved, needing medical attention, or large groups, those calls cannot be diverted. In 2024, we diverted 4,599 calls to UMCR unarmed crisis response models. And in 2025, that number grew to 10,740. So the coverage is currently limited, but it is expanding citywide. So we are working with our UMC partners in terms of making sure that our PSRs are really well educated on what they can divert. And one of the things that I'm sure UMCR is kind of looking into is getting City Council to approve them to have their own department to manage UMCR type services, including staffing their own call center that would greatly really help us if the city created their own unarmed response number, and they had their own staffing in terms of having their own dispatch and their own EBOs. That would probably really greatly reduce a lot of things that come through us, and it would be a lot more streamlined, right, in terms of getting those services faster. So certainly we're not in opposition. If they want to create their own department, have their own center, it would be great for UMCR and UMCR type services. And then again, this does not necessarily reduce the staffing demands of communications division, and we would still divert. We still divert when people call 911 or they call 912, and it falls in line with UMCR diversion criteria, UMCR Circle or DD Hirsch. And then there's other existing reporting options in terms of like cores and online reporting to absorb a large volumes of reports that we processed in 2025. So in 2025, there were 72,447 online reports that were processed. So, and then we looked at the existing lines of service, which there are other lines that the public can call, 988, 211, 311, 511, and 811. They already provide specialized assistance in providing services of unarmed response. And then I think lastly, our recommendation was to have some citywide education campaign encouraging the appropriate use of 311 or other numbers other than 911 or 1877 Ask LAPD, as far as diverting resources. And that would really greatly reduce on the workload for our PSRs, our communications division. So regarding that public education outreach strategy, we're asked to talk about our current efforts. We go out to community college panels, we provide station tours, and we have sit-alongs. We do outreach to bilingual communities. We go to career fairs when we're invited, LA Unified School District events, and we also have a robust social media. And then the other thing we do is we try to promote 1877 Ask LAPD for non-emergency calls. We're currently not, as I understand it, 912, while that's what we refer to non-emergency calls, 912 is not actually functionally operational, though that would be easier to remember that for that. But I heard that was cost prohibitive, that the city had looked at using 912 as a non-emergency number, but that's not something the public can dial. They have to dial 1877 Ask LAPD. And then our future strategy, we want to reestablish a communications division and community relations unit once we have staffing stabilized, because obviously we want to, in the order of precedence, we want to answer calls and be able to get calls out before we establish a community relations unit. We don't currently have staffing to have a full-time community relations unit, but we'd like to. And then also expand our outreach through television, print media, billboards, bus bench advertising, and such. We want to educate the public on the proper use of 911 versus non-emergency services, and then also look at new technology tools, and then again, alternative city service lines that would kind of reduce the impacts to 911 and our non-emergency line. And then our key takeaways for the decision makers are staffing is the most critical factor in improving call answering times. So certainly we would want to make sure we impress upon folks that we certainly need staffing. The current training pipeline will materially improve performance, but attrition and hiring slowdowns remain a risk. And certainly you saw that between 2024 and 2025, we have not hired as many PSRs. That seems to be on the decline. So we would love to have more PSRs hired. They're public safety. They're exempted from, I know that we're worried about the furloughs, and we are worried about the potential layoffs to our civilian workforce. But with regards to 911, it has to be paramount, has to be a priority in terms of pushing forward the hiring of PSRs. And if we lose sight of that, my fear is that the hiring will just continue to be on the decline, and we'll slip back into very very long wait times, and our call answering rates will start dropping. But I look at it this way, when I look at 2024 versus 2025, overall, I think there's like an 8% as 8% difference in our overall call handling. It's improved. And you can look at staffing as like probably the number one contributing factor to that. And with that, if the commissioners or anyone here has any questions, we'd be love to entertain that.
Thank you, Captain. That was a very informative, very comprehensive. I'm struck by the number of calls per hour, 332. I mean, how does that happen, even with your limitations? And the switching back from 991 or 992. And so now I get why there could be a delay in the 912 calls, the non-emergency calls. So anyway, I think it's so challenging, not only on the number of calls, but also the hiring strategy and trying to get people to come in and then stay for the total 1-year training. So my question is really focused on the languages. You said there are 40 languages, is that correct?
Yes, we're under the system we're using, which is Prepared 911, and it's not active yet. We haven't fully integrated that system. Right now, it's kind of being used in a preliminary phase, but it does have a feature in which, once fully activated, it can translate calls, and then the AI can also respond.
Okay.
For some reason, it can translate inbound in I think 40 languages. I think the response is like 35 languages, but that's pretty impressive if you consider we have to go through like a secondary language service currently. So once we get the policy in place and we get the system fully activated, it will have that feature and capacity, so we don't have a delay where we have to connect with a secondary service.
So you're talking about the AI resource, being used as a resource to be able to handle these 40 different languages. But right now you have actual people doing the translation, right? So once you kick this into AI use, what happens to those individuals that are currently employed as translators? Do they kind of get incorporated into the system in some way? Or does the service of translation focus mainly on the AI technology?
You know, I'm going to have Robert Lopez speak to our current translation services and what would happen, you know, once we fully integrate AI.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. So in answering that question right now, the department or communications division has a majority of our foreign language speakers being Spanish, which we still man, and that won't change. So we would still have Spanish speakers manning the 911 lines in Spanish, and then the Korean speakers, Farsi speakers that we do have that do earn a percentage of a bonus will still be in effect with the department, right? The difference being, and there's an update on the actual languages spoken, the AI software itself currently handles about 200 languages now. Spoken languages, we're looking at 17, where we type in English and it actually speaks the language back to the caller, and then they speak it back to us and it types it out on our end. So that's getting better as we're progressing. Other than that, we're currently using our Homeland Language Services, which is a service that's provided through Cal OES. It's funded through the state. So we're not making an impact on the actual foreign language speakers that are hired by the department. It's the service that we're working with. And I can tell you, to be blunt, it's difficult to find foreign language speakers on a constant basis. So converting over to the AI, which is about a 96-97% accurate rate, is something that's going to help us significantly in terms of answering foreign languages, especially with the major events that are coming down, such as the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics.
So to follow up on that, I would think that, or you clarify this for me, the cost would improve, right? I mean, it won't be the cost in the sense that we're using AI technology instead of humans to do the work.
Right,
there
so
would be a benefit to that, right?
the cost, it is a benefit as a whole because we're not just getting language services, right? We're getting transcription services, we're getting summary services, and those services are also working hand in hand with our DFR program. So the drone units are actually picking up that same summary that we're receiving on our end and using it on their side so that it can work with the real-time crime center. So we're getting more bang for our buck in that sense. Eventually, what I would like to see happen is the funding that's being provided by Cal OES towards the language services be transferred over to the department to help offset the cost of the AI software.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if, Commissioner Garcia, do you have any questions, any concerns?
Yeah, so I'll jump to this topic because that's one of my questions there. So currently the state covers the cost of the translation services, and you mentioned, and that was my sort of question, is in hopes that there is a way for the state to cover the AI, but how realistic is that? And sort of who covers it currently? What department within the state? You mentioned Cal OES, but is there a grant that we get that covers it?
How we pay for the language services right now, it's a direct cost through the state. So the language services actually bills Cal OES directly, so we don't ever see the bill on our end. In terms of rearranging the funds, that's something that we would have to discuss. But Cal OES has been known to be flexible in how the funding is provided for other services as well throughout the state.
So there's this independent company that potentially is getting grants from Cal OES to
Yes.
get reimbursed for the services they provide. Have we talked to Cal OES or other state departments to see who is going to be willing to fund any AI subscription services?
We haven't yet because we're still in the preliminary stages of implementing the translation services to the AI. And in order for us to actually step to that level, we have to make sure that we're able to function appropriately and have a good foundation with the translation services through the AI before we can even take that step. So currently, the way that we're looking at it right now, speaking today, this week, we're actually doing all the training for all of our PSRs in terms of the AI software. So we're running 24-hour trainings these next 4 days, or Monday through Thursday, so that everybody is trained in the software as a whole, so that we can slowly start rolling it out as a kind of pilot program to see how functional it'll be. But we can't ask for Cal OES to funnel money a different way if we don't know if it's going to work as its entirety. Currently, the direction we're giving is you're still going to conference over with the translator as you're using the AI software so that we can see how accurate it is in terms of getting the whole conversation as a whole. One of the things that we get a lot of is we'll get, let's just say, a French speaker that will come on the line. We get a translator and we'll tell the translator, hey, ask, did they see a weapon? And they'll go on and speak for a good 2-3 minutes, and then they'll come back and they said no. Well, there's a lot that we're missing in that conversation that the translator's not giving us. Well, this software is actually going to let us see the transcription in English so that we can get all the information so that we can provide a service a lot more accurately and efficiently. But we can't move on until we can test that.
Yeah. Two things. One is, what is the expected cost structure? Is it a yearly subscription? Is it?
It's a subscription plan. I can't speak too much on the cost because we're not involved in the purchasing of it, but it is something, the Prepare 911 software is linked to Axon. It's actually owned by Axon. So from my understanding, it's being rolled into that contract as a whole.
Okay. And do we know of other departments that currently use it full-time?
Yes. So San Diego uses it, Fort Worth uses it, Tennessee uses it, Vegas is using a feature of it. So there's a lot of other agencies out there that are pretty decent sized. Obviously, we're one of the biggest PSAPs out in the country, but they have significant amounts of calls that they receive that are using these features successfully.
Okay.
Closer to home, I can tell you Anaheim is using it. We've actually gone to Anaheim and seen it work in real time.
Thank you. We'd love to, if possible, either have at some point like a presentation on how it functions, like
Definitely.
maybe not a real call, but a training call.
Yeah.
Or visit one of those departments, see how they're managing, how their folks feel about it.
We have the demos on site right now because we are using them for training purposes. So we will be happy to present it to you guys.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to pull back a little bit to my set of questions. You mentioned we currently have 92 vacancies. and that we need 100 operators at any one time.
So this report was as of October when we submitted for the project, but we're up to 112 now, and a lot of that's a combination of retirements, resignations, and then some of our PSRs didn't qualify. So of those three things, we're up to 112, but we were down to under 100. It was like 92 before in October, but yeah, that's we're always fighting attrition.
And with those vacancies, are we able to still staff at 100?
So the vacancies are clearly going to have an impact on what we're staffing in terms of our floors. But ultimately, our goal is, and when we apply a mathematical formula, that we need to have at least 100 EBOs, which are emergency board operators, staffed in a 24-hour period, and we're not there yet. If anything, we're probably looking at like when I looked at the manual count for yesterday, it was like 70. So we're between 60 and 70 in a 24-hour period, where we should be at 100. And again, we're trying to meet the mark of 90%, answering our 911 calls at 90% at 15 seconds, and that's the standard that's set by NENA, which is a National Emergency Number Association, and adopted by Cal OES as a state standard. But again, we're not there yet. A lot of times I look at a report that I get every morning, and it tells me in a 24-hour period what our call answering rate times are. And again, it looks at like how many calls we're taking in a 24-hour period, and it's contingent on what our staffing is like. But we're not at 90%. We're closer to like 60 to 70 on most days. And then you have like high call volume days, like holidays. Some holidays have very high call load, and you'll see the answering rates go down because it doesn't even matter how much staffing we have. We could be max staffing for EBOs, and the call load alone will overwhelm our 911 system. So.
In terms of the new equipment, so you mentioned we recently approved the 2025-2026 budget that included all new equipment. What does the training for that new equipment look like? And are we training now so that when we have the equipment, it's faster and smoother?
So we're waiting for that budget to be approved, but essentially we're having to replace all the consoles at both our communication centers, both at the Metropolitan Center and the Valley Communications Dispatch Center. And that's also going to include wiring and infrastructure, mainly because our consoles are so they're so old right now, we can't get replacement parts. So there's some consoles that are not in use because we can't get the parts. So ultimately, before all of our consoles, fall to pieces, we're having to do a replacement. And until we get that budget approved and the equipment installed, we can't do any kind of training on the new equipment. So,
Do we foresee barriers or time lapse between the old and new equipment? Have you all seen it? Is it something that we're going to be able to train every?
There isn't really a training period for the equipment, because we're looking at the equipment that we're looking at are really ergonomic desks with ergonomic setups. So there's not a training process that has to go into place in order to be able to use them. It's basically being able to have the consoles installed that will accommodate all our personnel from different sizes, and being able to let them work in a standing position, a sitting position, basically an ergonomically fit position so that they can have basically minimal risk to injury. So there isn't really a downtime for training. What we're looking at is, because we have the redundant call centers, right? We have the one downtown and we have the one in the valley, being able to shut down one center so that we can basically gut the whole center, do all the wiring since we're pulling out all the consoles, restructure the whole dispatch floor, and then bring the personnel assigned to the downtown center back into the center before we move on to the next one. So there won't be a downtime in the 911 system itself because we have the dual centers. So there wouldn't be anything of that to worry about. And realistically speaking, once we get the budget approved, it's going to obviously start the process of being able to see the more detailed layouts of which company we're going to go with and what the layouts are going to be, so that it can better benefit the PSRs on the dispatch floor. Like the captain said, we have consoles right now that are stuck in a raised position, consoles that don't tilt the monitors over, so we can't effectively use them, which is affecting the way that we basically have our structure of our dispatchers which affects mostly our RTO positions. Our RTO positions are set up by bureaus, and in each bureau we have a bureau communications coordinator. That person is usually in the middle of the bureau that helps support the divisions. We have two bureaus right now where the coordinator is sitting away from those divisions because the console that's set up for it isn't working effectively. So I can't assign somebody there. So the usual life of a console system is about 10 years. We're pushing 26 years at the moment.
All right, thank you. And last question. And we may already have the ability, but if we don't, does the AI program also offer the ability to text the caller? So like if we're calling and they say, hey, no, call your local division, here's the number, can I just text it so someone doesn't have to actually write it down, whether it's the phone number to the appropriate number that they need to be calling?
Yes.
The response system that they need, the address to the division where they can go in person to file a report, or the link to the online site for the submitting of online reports.
Yes. So the AI system is pretty futuristic. It's fun to watch and fun to see it actually operate, because it does have a text to 911 system incorporated in it where we can set up as supervisors canned messages. So for example, if a caller calls in on the 911 system reporting a hit or run without injuries, right? It's a hit or run misdemeanor. We go through all the questions, right? Is anybody injured? Is there any water on the roadway? Is there any city property involved? We basically go through all the questions, and when we realize that we get to the end of it and it's said that it's just going to be a cores report, then we send them to secondary where they sit for 40, 45 minutes just to go through that same question to then be told, hey, you have to make an online report. So the way that we're looking at approaching this is setting up canned messages eventually, where once we go through that line of questioning, we can just tell the person, hey, we see that you're calling from a cell phone, because the AI can give us that information and say, we're going to go ahead and send you over the link so that you can just go ahead and file a report online. Click that link, click that button, send the text, and call it a day. And so we're wrapping up that call as a whole. There's also an extra feature to the AI, and I would like to give you guys a lot more of an in-depth presentation, but there's a feature called ANET, which is basically a conversational AI bot that we will be able to transfer the callers over to, and that AI bot does the interview as a whole based on the settings that we're programming into it. And currently we've invested about 60 plus hours of programming into that system so that it can ask the right questions and then eventually transfer over to 311, transfer over to the course reports, transfer over to different city services that are non-emergency and are basically information that citizens are asking for.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scobin, any questions?
I do. I have a series of questions. First off, thank you so much for the report. I have to be honest, it's troubling to hear how understaffed and how outdated our technology is. Having a qualified response to every 911 call in a timely fashion, I feel like is so critical and really the starting point to everything that we, commit to do, which is to protect and serve. Some questions. On the report, you had said that there was 28 additional PSRs expected to qualify by the end of the year. Did those 28 qualify by the end of 2024 or 2025?
Good afternoon. As the captain indicated, we do have updated numbers because it was prepared back when it was originally requested in October. Of the PSRs, if you're looking at the fact sheet that was attached to our report, of the 144 PSRs that were hired in 2024, 77 have already fully qualified versus 66 back in October. 11 are still expected to qualify, and then 11 are still in training. Expected to qualify by the end of the year. Of the PSRs hired in 2025, which was 55 PSRs, 36 are expected to qualify by the end of the year, and those 36 obviously are still in training. So currently we still have a total of 47 PSRs still in training.
And do we have, recognizing that it's a year, so anything that happens in 26, we won't realize until 27, but do we have stated goals, hiring goals for 2026? And if so, what are they?
The information that we currently have is an expected class of 35 for fiscal year 2025, 2026. But obviously that hasn't happened yet, so I wouldn't be able to answer that directly.
Just to add on to that, sir, the department as a personnel actually released the testing last week. So we've been pushing that out on social media. The department actually put it on their social media as well to help raise the awareness that the testing has been opened up again for the PSR position.
Out of curiosity, during the year of training, are those trainees on the phones in any level of capacity?
Yes. So originally they start off in classroom and they go through post training. Once they complete the post training, they go into the RTO phase. So that's the radio part. They do classroom in the RTO section, and then they go onto the floor where they do hands-on training to qualify on that side. Once they qualify on the RTO training, they go back into classroom training to do the phone part. Once they go through their weeks of training in the phones, they go back out to the floor, and then they are assigned to an instructor where they're actually taking live calls until they qualify. One of the issues that we are kind of dealing with right now, and it's something that's kind of been a burden, is that our supervision staff it's lacking personnel as well. And so when a supervisor is tasked with monitoring a trainee to qualify, sometimes it takes a little bit of a delay because they're also doing the timekeeping, they're doing the floor personnel, the floor work, they're doing the quality assurance on calls. So the supervisors are multitasking, doing the regular duties, and then trying to slip in time to monitor a trainee to be able to qualify them. We just don't have the supervisors to be able to assign anybody to the position of a training coordinator to be able to focus on just qualifying PSRs. And I can tell you, as a assistant watch commander, having enough supervisors on the floor would help us speed up the process of qualifying our trainees. It's just we have trainees that are pushing on 20 weeks where they could have qualified at 14, 15, but here we are still assigning them to an instructor, not being able to use the two separate bodies because we don't have enough supervisors to actually monitor them and qualify them.
Yeah, it's troubling. Where I come from, an answer rate of under 15 seconds, sitting at 40%, 50% is just, it's unacceptable. Out of curiosity, huge increase in calls diverted to UMCR, and I know there's a lot of energy, in the city about, expanding unarmed model crisis response, et cetera. Do we have any data on the answer percentages and the time at which it took them to answer for the calls that were diverted to UMCR?
We don't have that information. We can just tell you how many calls we divert, because once we divert the call, we have nothing to do with it anymore until it gets kicked back to us because they can't handle it. Another part, and that's with UMCR. The Circle program doesn't have any data that they provide. I'm sorry. They have provided some data, but they're a little bit behind on it. So I don't have anything current to tell you in terms of Circle, but they handle different parts of the city, and they have different features that they handle for, right? So part of the reason why there's a rise in the numbers is that they've expanded to other areas of the city, but it's also the education with our PSRs and the comfort that they have in sending a caller to a diversion program as opposed to an officer. We're trained. I've been on the department for 22 years. If I sit down and answer a call, my first thought is going to be send an officer, not send a unarmed response. So that's really hard to break in the training process. So once the PSRs get used to diverting a caller out to the diversion program, you'll start seeing more numbers go out to the diversion programs. And it's been something that we work on day in and day out. We push it on roll call trainings. We do audits. And it's something that we really kind of focus on the PSR so that they know, hey, this is a feature. This is a resource so that we can go ahead and use the officers for officer-related calls and not send them to situations where resources are needed that are not handled by officers.
100%. And, with our officer shortage, we need them going to the appropriate calls. I think it'd be interesting to understand and maybe report back on, the percentage at least of those calls that come back to us. And I think, look, any information that we could either get ourselves or through the UMCR, I think would be valuable, because I think there's going to be a lot of, energy and communications and things asked by the city council, and others on UMCR and growing it, et cetera. And I think the more information and data that we have to be a thought partner in how we make that as good as it can be, I think that can only help the city.
Yeah, we do have some of the information the lieutenant can provide.
Two pieces of data that I can provide. In 2024, there was a total of 4,599 calls diverted to UMCR. In 2025, up until October 25th, there was a total of 10,740 calls. So from 2024 to 2025, the number of calls more than doubled.
Yeah, no, that's in here, but I had heard the calls bounce back to us. I had heard that we don't know the answer rates and times once it's sent. The only thing that we had visibility into is how many bounce back to us. And I just think as the city is looking at, expanding this and making this a better service, I just think that as much information as we can provide to be a partner in developing that is critical. And I think, it's one thing to say, look how many more calls we diverted, but if that whole increase came back to us, you just want to make sure there's not a false sense of, hey, it's working, when it's not. I wanted to jump to technology.
Yes.
Have we completed identifying the complete tech stack that we need to bring our 911 operations, up to now and into the future?
We've completed kind of an inspection of what needs to be done in order to get us to the numbers that we're trying to get to, right, the 90%. Realistically, it does, like the captain said, it does come down to the personnel. The technology can only take us so far, and without the personnel there to work with the technology hand in hand, we're not going to get to the numbers necessary. So the first approach that we're taking in order to look at the technology, in order to have it assist us, is by looking at the consoles. We got to look at using technology to not only recruit but retain our personnel. We're losing personnel to other departments that are a little more advanced in terms of the technology. So having the consoles be a little bit more modernized and a lot more comfortable is one aspect of it. The monitor system. So I don't know if you've been to our call center, but we currently have 6 horizontal monitors that are spaced out. They have the thick frames, so whenever you're looking at one monitor, it's not a seamless transition going from one monitor to the next. So in terms of taking it towards the future of the technology, we're looking at using 42-inch curved screens that are stacked on top of each other with 2 horizontal monitors on the sides, which will make the software a lot more easier to use on the eyes and not be a strain on the neck, on the back, and the shoulders, right? So that's one aspect of it. The technology aspect of it for the AI part, that secondary ANET feature is really one of the things that's going to help support us and be able to free up the 911 operators to do what they were hired to do, which is answer 911 calls. It's just a matter of rolling it out effectively and making sure that it works to its full capacity without having to put any liability on the department.
Right, and I'm a huge supporter of that. And what I would like to ask is, to the extent it's not done, I think it's prudent that we put together our full tech needs.
Yes.
In a very timely fashion. And I don't know if it's reasonable to say 30 days, 60 days. My attitude on this is in a way, we kind of need to, be acting like the house is on fire. And every day that goes by that we're not answering to the level that we need to, is an issue. And so, while I want to be optimistic that, whatever requests that are in the budget are gonna get approved. Respectfully, I don't want that to be Plan A.
Right.
And if we, as a commission, are brought in the loop as to what are the tech requirements needed to get us to a great place, you know, maybe there's a way that we can identify alternate funding sources to get this done, you know, ASAP. So, you know, again, I don't, President, I don't know what's reasonable of an ask, but I would like to ask as soon as reasonable to be brought back to us to understand what that tech stack looks like with associated costs, you know, because in the event that, you know, things don't get passed in the budget or even in the timing of the budget being approval, there may be an opportunity for us to get something done quicker and better support the city.
Okay, definitely.
So perhaps 60 days, 90 days?
60 days would be fine. We can do that within 60 days. Yeah, we have had a lot of support from the captain in terms of our operations support unit having the responsibilities that they were originally overseeing divided out to other units in communications division, so we can fully focus on the training and the technology. I can tell you, like right now, the three of us in that unit are working a 24-hour shift. We're split up between a 24-hour shift for this week, just so that we can accommodate the training for all, 450 PSRs that we have on the floor. So we have a lot of support from the captain here.
And the best part too is we are really good collaborative partners with Information Technology Bureau, and we have folks from communication on loan to X Division, which is specifically addresses communications, right? So we want to make sure that our tech partners, we have SMOs that are embedded at our communication centers, and we have folks from communications embedded with X Division so that we have a seamless communication with Infotech Bureau. Because a lot of the funding, a lot of technology, sometimes it gets lost. Some of the things get lost because what is in ITB's budget, what is ITA's responsibility, what is our responsibility, and so a lot of that kind of gets commingled. But it's best if we have good communication with our partners.
I think the first step is fully identifying what we need, putting price tags to it, and then, let us, if we need to, go to work and figure out how to get it done.
Definitely.
Okay, I think you agree with that, right?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We will see you back here or see some part of this in about 60 days.
Sure. That sounds good.
Excuse me, and very informative. You're doing an amazing job, and I know it's overwhelming, like you said, working 24/7, and I can see why. You have a tremendous responsibility to all the callers in the city of LA. All right, anything further from our commissioners? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Secretary?
Okay, so we have a recommended board action to approve the department's report and transmit to the mayor and city council. Do we have a motion?
Yes, there's a motion for the Board of Police Commissioners to approve the department's report and transmit to the city's council.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'm sorry, I had a question or a comment on it first, if possible.
On the motion?
On the report. Not on the 911 report, on the next item.
Okay, well, we're not there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just give me a minute.
I'm sorry.
Is there a second?
Second, and in approving this, will it include the updated numbers to the mayor and council, or what we have in front of us? Got it. Still second.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Did he say yes?
Do you second it?
Yeah.
Yeah, second. There is a second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we'll have item 4B, and that's relative to City Council File Number 23-0529, renting, leasing, or selling recreational vehicles in the public right-of-way, and we have Commander Espinoza to present.
Good morning, Commissioners, President, Inspector General, Executive Director, Chief McDonald. City Attorney, and members of the public. My name is Gisela Espinoza. I'm from the Community Engagement Group. I am also the department's homelessness coordinator. With me today is Jonathan Bisling from the City Attorney's Office, so he can weigh in on some of the legal aspects of what I'm going to present on. Today's presentation is about the Public Works Committee of the Los Angeles City Council advancing a recommendation to amend Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 80.73.01 to prohibit the renting, leasing, or selling of recreational vehicles, otherwise known as RVs, in the public right-of-way. The operators or persons who commit these prohibited acts are referred to as vanlords. This proposed amendment also updates fines under LAMC Section 89.60 to address violators who exploit vulnerable individuals like those experiencing homelessness. At this point, the amendment has not been approved, so that should be the backdrop of this conversation. It's recommended, it's going through the process, but it's not quite yet approved. That notwithstanding, the department was asked to report back to the Public Works Committee on a description of the process when outreach partners would engage and detail how the LAPD would coordinate and collaborate with our city partners to implement protection measures to safeguard individuals living in RVs. So I would like to touch on what we perceive as enforcement challenges associated with LAMC Section 80.73.01 and 56.12, which currently make it unlawful to enter into a lease agreement or contract of any kind for the use of the public right-of-way. While these two LAMC sections establish a legal framework for prosecuting offenders, the enforcement challenges for the department are significant. The most pressing issue is the evidentiary burden required to build a prosecutable case. Under both sections, proof of a rental or lease agreement must be established. This requires documentation such as a digital or written contract, evidence of payment, cash or electronic payment, physical proof such as a key to the RV, or access provided by the suspect. In many cases, individuals exploited by vanlords lack formal documentation of their arrangement, which makes it difficult to establish a link between the suspect and the vehicles they are renting, which may require also a thorough Department of Motor Vehicle Registration record search, such as confirmation of vehicle ownership. Victim cooperation represents another challenge. Individuals residing in unlawfully rented RVs are often reluctant to cooperate with the investigation for fear of retaliation, mistrust of law enforcement, or concerns about losing their only form of shelter, just to name a few. While there are challenges in evidence gathering, victim cooperation, suspect linkage, and limited personnel resources, if or when the amendment to the previously mentioned LAMC section is approved, the department will continue its practice of working with our city partners and community-based organizations, as well as service providers. The process will remain as a whole-of-government approach to improving public safety and the quality of life for all members of the public, especially those experiencing homelessness. Utilizing our established process for investigations, outreach, enforcement as a last resort, vehicle impounds, all which are aligned with the Chief Administrative Officer, otherwise known as the CAO's office, established vehicle dwelling procedures, the city can protect vulnerable individuals, hold offenders accountable, and address vehicles maintained illegally or in illegal conditions on the public streets within the city. The department has effective policies in place, which have been extensively vetted by the city attorney's office and other subject matter experts. Our city partners, along with the department, follow a progressive model of enforcement, meaning a services-led approach with traditional enforcement as a last resort. And we have service providers, the CAO's office, the mayor's office, the council districts, our department that work collaboratively to make sure that this is a seamless process, that we maintain the dignity of the people that are living in the streets that are sometimes found living in these RVs as well. I believe that our policy is solid enough to where when this LAMC code section is approved, if that occurs, that we're in a good place to push forward. We are limited in resources, so to do anything else proactively just to pursue a violation, which is a misdemeanor, and the city attorney can weigh in on on how those are judicially diverted in a lot of cases. I think we're standing in a good position to be able to continue to do the work with the added bonus of having RVs included in that LAMC section. So that concludes my report. And partner, do you want to weigh in?
Sure. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just to speak briefly, the department's responsibility is obviously the investigation and enforcement. Sorry. The department's responsibility is the investigation and enforcement of the laws. They are not responsible for reviewing and filing these cases. They are not responsible for the disposition of these cases in the court. So to kind of ground everyone's expectations, to the extent an investigation is made, a report is prepared and submitted for filing consideration, it would be the prosecutor's discretion to file charges. And even if they believe that a case can be found beyond a reasonable doubt and it's filed, misdemeanor cases can be subject to what's called judicial diversion under state law. And so the judge does have discretion to divert this case instead of moving forward. So that's just one consideration in grounding everyone's expectations as to what the ultimate result will be with regard to the enforcement of this ordinance.
That concludes our
That
report. Yes, ma'am.
concludes your presentation. Thank you both very, very much for your presentation. Let me inquire from our commissioners if there are any follow-up questions.
None, thank you.
Any questions?
So, yes, I do. Thank you for the report. I think it does a great job of giving an overview of the situation and, what's happening and it's an unfortunate situation and a sensitive one.
Thank you, sir.
One of the things that I think, to the extent that we have any specific data, I'd recommend that, maybe we add that to the report since this is going to the city council. And they're considering, some new things. I think it'd be helpful to maybe include, how many numbers are we dealing with and all the steps of the way in the different situations or the issues that we're running into in certain areas, like the challenges that, the report talks about. If there's an opportunity for us to tie numbers to those, it might paint a better picture for the city council to then ultimately make the decision that they feel is appropriate.
When you say numbers, what kind of numbers are you referring to?
For example, when you talk about the enforcement challenges, and you say the most pressing obstacle is the evidentiary burden required to build a prosecutable case. How many calls did we go out to, for this? Of those calls, how many did we run into this situation?
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, in the last 5 years at least, and I can double check that, but I think we've only had one instance. This is a very difficult situation to even report because most of the time we don't know who the registered owner is of the RV. If you're looking at how many RVs we have in the city, I believe we could get an estimated number of that, but the way that we approach recreational vehicles in the roadway is through services first. So there are touch points that are consistent with what the CAO's office expects, and they want us to meet with people living in those recreational vehicles at least 3 times and work with our service providers, DMH, if there's mental illness involved, to encourage them to go inside or take services. So to quantify it, I think would be very difficult because we're not really sure what we're quantifying, especially since we don't have a long record of having any stats on how many calls we've received for vandalord types of situations. But I can definitely look into it and see how much of this information can be quantified in a way that tells a succinct picture of what we're experiencing.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question for Mr. Jonathan. Jonathan, you talked about the prosecution of a case and how the charge would be a misdemeanor charge. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you confront a judicial officer who has discretion as to ordering judicial diversion, do you see that as a burden? I mean, or would you like, because you don't know what the predictability is, you don't have really a lot of control, or do you? Do you have terms that are recommended that fit into your case profile, where you can follow up and determine that at a certain point you move to Plan B or the case ends?
So I can't speak too much of that because our office is split into a criminal branch and then our municipal and civil branches, and so I can't speak to what type of filing guidelines the criminal branch has. They do definitely advocate against diversion on certain egregious cases because it shows that if something is diverted and there's no meaningful accountability, they'll just do it again. They'll reoffend again. So an effort is definitely made to advocate to just assure, not so much as a punitive condition, but just a probationary oversight condition to make sure that there is some accountability for a violation like this. Unfortunately, other than that, I can't really speak to what the criminal branch intends to do with these types of cases.
No, neither can I.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see what sense you had as far as this probationary, if that was your preference, the probationary accountability over judicial diversion.
If you can rephrase, I apologize. What my thoughts are on what?
No, I just wanted to find out whether in prosecuting these cases and getting them under control, whether the city attorney's office has a preference in obtaining probationary accountability, putting the person in some kind of probationary period over judicial diversion.
I can't speak to that again because that would be a criminal branch discretion, but I do know that they typically advocate on other misdemeanor cases to make sure that diversion is not granted, and probation at least be given. So at least there's judicial oversight of the offender. So if that offender reoffends, there could be additional accountability, because if someone is on diversion and they reoffend again, there's nothing in the record to demonstrate that they committed that violation in the first place.
Yeah.
And so we start at square one.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything further from the commissioners? Again, thank you very much for your report.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you all.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the department's report and transmit to city council. Do we have a motion?
Yes, there is a motion to approve the Los Angeles Police Department response to the city council and transmit to the Los Angeles City Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Thank you. The commission will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 5A1 and 5B in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Madam President, please note the commission has concluded its work in closed session. We're now back in open session, and we'll have a report out by the executive director, Mr. Sibley.
Thank you. So, agenda item 5A, officer involved shooting 003-25. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on January 13th, 2026, during the closed session, the board made the following findings by a 3-0 vote. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 2. Administrative disapproval, 1 sergeant 1 and 1 police officer 2. And I'm going to just correct that. I'm going to correct the tactics finding. I'm going to start again. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. Administrative disapproval, 1 sergeant 1 and 1 police officer 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. For intermediate use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer, 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer, 2. And then for item 5B, the item was discussed, and that concludes the report out.
With no other items on the agenda, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes. I move that this meeting be adjourned.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.